Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be debating, is the Book of Mormon scientific? Kyle Adams is here to defend that claim, and we're going to put the floor over to Kyle Adams. So floor is all yours, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. So I'm Kyle Adams. I am both a Christian and a flat earther, and I am defending the claim that the Book of Mormon is a scientific book. That is the topic of this debate. And as a Christian and a flat earther, I go up against a whole lot of atheists and globalists, and they all love to put the word science and scientific on this lofty pedestal, and they practically worship the word. And I don't know if you're one of those people, but if you are, please forgive me as I knock that definition off its pedestal. Okay, by dictionary definition, the very basic definition of the word science is systematized knowledge in general. Okay, just systematized knowledge in general. It doesn't say that that knowledge has to be perfect, accurate. It just needs to be simple or systematized. That's it. Just systematized. Okay, and you don't even have to follow the scientific method. That's not a requirement here. I'm not saying that the Book of Mormon doesn't follow the scientific method. There's some of the most powerful invitations in the Book of Mormon are to experiment upon the word. But yeah, again, that's kind of focusing on it a little bit of a different thing here, because we're just aiming at systematized knowledge in general. And so let's take a look at some mainstream academia references, because they use the word science very, very openly. Maybe you've heard of the words history and social science. That's something that academia definitely considers a science. You can get a bachelor's degree in that. Bachelor's in science, in history, and social science. Ever hear of computer science? How about political science? Where is the scientific method in political science? In gerrymandering, perhaps? I don't know. So they also consider the humanities to be a science. The humanities. Okay. By this dictionary definition, the dictionary itself is a scientific book. It is a bunch of knowledge about the world that has been alphabetized and systematized into that book. So that's knowledge that is systematized in general. So why do globe earthers and atheists use the term so narrowly? Okay. So according to my knowledge, the Book of Mormon is true. Okay. And if we actually open up to 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 3, says, "And I know that the record which I make is true, and I make it with my own hand, and I make it according to my knowledge." That's Nephi speaking that. So he's making that according to his knowledge. And if you ever go to like a Latter-day Saint church service, first of the month, you might hear a lot of people stand up and share their testimonies that I know that the Book of Mormon is true. And when they do this, they are stating that the Book of Mormon is true according to their knowledge. So it is knowledge to someone, even though you might not claim to have that knowledge for yourself. It's still knowledge according to someone. So I know the heliocentric model isn't knowledge according to me. I find a lot of faults in that, but I still consider it scientific, even though it's not part of my paradigm. And so I can hope that you'd want to, or that you'd be willing to give the Book of Mormon the same respect, even though it might not be part of your paradigm or part of your knowledge. It's still knowledge according to other people. So before you go out and try and bash on the Book of Mormon or Joseph Smith or Brigham Young or anything like that, please keep in mind that's all a big red herring. It's not about whether or not the Book of Mormon is perfect, accurate, or even true. The topic of this debate is on the word science and scientific, and whether or not the Book of Mormon can be described as such. That is the goalpost, and it is a mile wide. By that definition, or by those definitions, because scientific just means anything that is systematized, I could also argue that the Quran is scientific, even though I'm not a Muslim. I could even go so far as to claim that Teletubbies is scientific. That's just how wide this goalpost is, and so I can hope you can see just how easy it is to make a goal on a mile wide goalpost like that. Now, I know you might feel like I've slaughtered the significance of those words, science and scientific, but it wasn't me who slaughtered it. Okay, that's just the definitions, how the dictionary describes it. That wasn't me who did it. Thank you, and good luck.
All right. Thank you, Kyle, for your opening there. I just want to remind everybody that here at Modern Day Debate, we are a neutral debate platform. We're hosting debates on science, religion, politics, and alike. And we'd love, to hear from you fellas. So we are going to do a Q&A at the end of all of this. Just make sure that you guys keep hitting that like button so we can get this out to as many people as possible. And with that, we're going to hand it over to Mark. Thanks so much for being here, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. And I'll just get this up first and foremost. There we go. I'll share that. Just let me know when it's coming through, if you can be so kind, Ryan. Okay, so thank you so much for Kyle to be here and do this. Thanks to Ryan for hosting, and the audience. Thank you for your time. Now, the question is whether any holy book can be a scientific text. So let's see, what's the definition of scientific? There's a few definitions, and they relate directly to the process or methods of science. These methods can vary, but they have a common theme. They're all related to science and how science is practiced. It is simply not the case that we say if scientists write something down, then it automatically is science. The methods that anyone uses must follow the process of science. So the better question is, what is science? Science is a systematic series of processes used to ensure the information gathered is rigorous and reliable. Here are a couple of definitions, but the process is very well outlined. Even if by chance a book gets some things right, it does not make the book nor the way the information was gathered scientific. In fact, it could get everything right and everything correct, but if the scientific method was not followed, then it is simply not a scientific book. These are examples of scientific books. Note that we can go back and go into any of these books and scientifically test to see if they are right. We can verify them. They'll have experiments described in them to do exactly that. Also note that Fundamentals of Physics here is the 4th edition and may have multiple editions. Corrections and additions are common in scientific books because we'll update them as needed when we find anything incorrect or have anything to add. That is the very nature of science, that it changes when we get new information, and these book reflects that. These books are not scientific. There's no possible way we can go to the Book of Mormon and scientifically test to see if any of the information in them is correct. This is a lack of falsifiability, and it's directly antithetical to the idea of science and its principles. There are things in the Book of Mormon that are 100% uncategorically incorrect, and I'll go into that later, about the world around us. The people that believe in the Book of Mormon will not or cannot update the unscientific errors in the book, although I do notice they've corrected spelling and grammatical errors. They can't change the story to any degree, and that is why it is dogma and not a scientific book. The Book of Mormon also relies on the authority of Joseph Smith, and was he a scientist? In my mind, he does lack credibility, and I will explain why. He was not a scientist, he was a treasure hunter. He used something called seer stones to try and find buried treasure to investors. He never found any treasure, but he was arrested for glass looking, which was a sort of fraud of tricking people into thinking he had magic powers. He claimed a vision that led him to plates that led him to write the Book of Mormon or translate it from the origin that he gave it. But he would not show the plates to anyone else, or he did show them to some, but they were his followers, and others could feel the plates, but they weren't allowed to look at them. When he was finished with this sort of highly unscientific translation, he claimed that anyone, the angel given the vision, could take the plate so he couldn't show anybody. So we cannot replicate what process he used. And that process was getting the stones, putting his head in a hat and sort of getting the translation through these stones. He tried to set up religion, was wanted in 3 states, had riotous escapades all across the Midwest. He had 30 to 40 wives that lied to the public about them, and to his main wife, Emma Hale. At one point, Smith, in order to avoid criticism, violated the First Amendment by destroying a printing press after a single issue of the Nauvoo Expositor attacked his beliefs and accused him of polygamy, which turned out to be true. All Smith's like it speaks to a dishonest man who was ruthless and attacked anybody that threatened his doctrine. So I want to go on to some of the things that are problematic in the book, incredibly problematic. This is the language he says he translated it from. It is Reformed Egyptian, which is not a real language. John A. Wilson, the professor of Egyptology at the University of Chicago, wrote, "From time to time, there are allegations that picture writing been found in America. In no case has a professional Egyptologist been able to recognize these characters as Egyptian hieroglyphs. From our standpoint, there is no such thing as Reformed Egyptian." At one point, Joseph Smith bought papyri from mummies that he translates from Reformed Egyptian to the Book of Abraham and the Book of Jacob. Since then, actual Egyptologists have deciphered these scripts, and they're simply funeral rites. They're just simple funeral rites for Egyptian mummies. They are not what Smith translated them as. The crossing of the seas. The claim is that people living just after the Tower of Babel made the ocean trip from near the Red Sea all the way to the Pacific Ocean on a small, let's face it, submarine. It was an underwater ship that was unpowered, had holes in the top and bottom. No extra Mormon sources exist for these people, no evidence they made this trip, and it's highly unlikely that these people in the Middle East could make a trip the most experienced sailors would have trouble making. The book also says that they traveled for 344 days underwater in this kind of weird submarine that was unpowered. DNA shoe. The Book of Mormon claims that Lamanites were the ancestors of Native Americans. This would have found DNA evidence, but there's no connection has ever been made. Even Mormon geneticists admit there is no connection. The researchers, Mormon researchers Thomas W. Murphy and Simon Southerton, state that a substantial collection of Native American genetic markers are not consistent with any detectable presence of ancestors from the Middle East. That contradicts the account. So the Book of Mormon describes a flourishing similar civilization, 1.5 million at its peak. Zarahemla was apparently the largest city, and at its peak it had 100,000 people in that city. There is literally zero archaeological evidence for it. In 1955, Thomas Stuart Ferguson received 5 years of funding. He claimed he would find these cities in 10 years. He did not find these cities. And then he basically wrote a letter which stated the real implication of the paper is that you can't set the Book of Mormon geography down anywhere because it's fictional and will never meet the requirements of dirt archaeology. I should say what is in the ground will never conform to what is in the book, and that is from a Mormon themselves. So there's a major flaw. Things that are written about in the Book of Mormon did not exist. There were no elephants in North America. There were no goats. There were no sheep. There were no horses. They died out about 12,000 years earlier. There's no submarines at that time, sad to say. We found countless depictions of life in Mesoamerica, art, fresco, pottery. None has ever depicted a chariot. And no evidence for this civilization or any of these things has ever been found. To sum up, it fails to be multiple fronts to be scientific. It doesn't follow the scientific method. A scientific method cannot be applied to it today. No addition updates any correct information or any presumed knowledge that is shown to be verifiably incorrect. Any science book should be able to be validated by anyone working within the field, correctly using the scientific method. There is no way this can be done for the Book of Mormon, and hence it is not and will never be a scientific book. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that there, Mark. And we'll just end the screen share there. All right. And we'll get everybody back up with their tags. All right. Well, thank you to Mark and Kyle for being here and doing your intro statements. I just want to remind everybody that both of our guests are linked in the podcast or linked in the description, and they will be linked in the podcast as well. I got to get on my A game here. I was supposed to do my red leather, yellow leather before this. You see, I didn't do my warm-ups. I've failed. All right, so we're going to kick it into open discussion, everybody. So we're discussing, is the Book of Mormon scientific? And we'll kick it over to you, Kyle, to start our open discussion.
All right, let's talk about the humanities and political science
Sure.
and the way academia uses those terms. Would you claim any of those are scientific?
Of course, yeah. So
So
we've got
they're
to make a
scientific.
distinction. Well, yeah, we've got to make the distinction between soft sciences and hard sciences. So I think you might be thinking that, oh, it's only hard science that we categorize as science, and that's not true. The methodology for the social sciences are slightly different, but they use things like statistical data analysis and things like that to make testable predictions about the way that population growth happens, the way that people demonstrate various things in society. They do make these testable predictions and do experiments to find out if, say, a change in policy for political science, for instance, will actually result in the outcome that they're looking for. So there's multiple scientific methods, but all of them are sort of falsifiable and verifiable, that you're making testable predictions that you're validating. And then there's the hard sciences, like, for instance, mathematics and physics and things like that, where you're using very, very strict, rigorous scientific methodology. But what we're looking at is the way that we get the information. So what I want to talk to you about is the methods that has been used to get the information here, whether those methods are scientific and hence is a science book, because it seems like you're sort of saying it doesn't matter how they got the information and doesn't matter if it's right, it's still scientific.
Do you agree with I've got a peer-reviewed journal article that says that science never proves anything.
Sure.
Okay, so you agree with that claim?
Yeah. So this is a problem with the way that you're using proof. So proofs always are a unequivocal 100% certainty kind of thing. That's what proof is. So in something like mathematics, you will get proofs for an equation. They will basically demonstrate without any kind of 100% certainty that mathematical equation does or does not work, or does work rather, because it's a proof. And you use it to prove that the mathematical equation works. What science does is it models at a very, very high rate of confidence and very reliable way, but it never claims to have absolute certainty. That's never what we're claiming. That's not faith. Like your black and white thinking, sort of, that if it's not 100% certain, it's faith, is not correct. It's called rationality and reasoning, not faith.
All right. So it's a belief in something that you don't know is true. That is how it is that is how faith is defined, is not knowing for certain if it's true or not. And so
we know that it's
a belief
true.
in something that lacks proof. And that is by dictionary definition. So just because it is faith.
Well, no, it's not, because just because you don't know something with absolute certainty is true, it doesn't mean you don't know it. That's the thing.
Now that's contrary to the way the word is defined in the dictionary. You're making up your own definition, moving the goalposts, and saying, no, this is actually how it is.
So what's your definition of knowledge?
My definition of knowledge, definition of knowledge is just things that your level of understanding. There's different kinds of we've got a lot. I just go by the dictionary, so I can just open up the dictionary for you on knowledge.
Well, I think that the dictionary is a good sort of benchmark to use, but the dictionary is not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you what words are supposed to mean. What it does
that's exactly what the dictionary is supposed to do.
No,
it tells you what the word is supposed to mean.
No. It describes how words are used, right? So it describes usages of words. So when we use words in society, it describes those it's descriptive, not prescriptive.
It provides definitions to words.
Sure.
It tells you what the words mean. And so the word knowledge is an acquaintance with facts, truths, or principles from study, investigation, general erudition. Okay, it's a familiarity with a subject. Okay.
Does that say absolute certainty anywhere in it?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It does not. Yeah. So what I would define knowledge as is justified. Just 1 second. I'll just define it as justified true belief, right? So it's a belief that is justified and is also true.
A belief that is justified, and it's also true is a definition to what word?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. I'm not seeing that dictionary definition up here.
John, maybe you should check the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. That's a philosophical definition.
It's a completely different. So yeah, I'm sure someone out there can define things that way. I'm just talking about the general dictionary.
Well, it's when you believe something and you have a justification. Like, for instance, I say, hey, I know that my wife's in the house, right? Like I say, I know that. Now, it's justified because I saw her out there just a while ago. But is it absolute knowledge? No, because she could have, stepped out the back or done something else. But it is a justified belief. And as long as it's true, as long as she's in the house, then I have knowledge of that. You seem to be getting this black and white idea that either to have knowledge, you have to be sort of 100% confident in everything you say. And that's just not the case.
Whoa, what did I say that presents that?
Well, you said that science is just faith, because we have a lot of justification under science for saying, hey, we know these things. We know them to be true. But I want to get back to the methodology that you're using. So methodology is the analysis about methods that you're using to justify what you believe to be true or your knowledge.
That's right? That's a red herring entirely.
Why?
It has nothing to do with the definition. This entire debate is on the definition of science and scientific, and whether or not the Book of Mormon fits that definition.
I'm not having a definitional debate. That's kind of weird and odd.
Okay, well then you are here for the wrong debate.
Well, I think it's whether the book itself is scientific.
Yes.
So there's a lot
which is all about the definition of the word scientific, which means anything that is systematized.
No,
the Book of Mormon
that is not the
chronologically
definition of
systematized. That is
not
definition
the
scientific.
definition. No, it's not.
It's right out of the dictionary.
It's not.
Dictionary.com, Scientifc. I can give you a screenshot if you want. It is right here.
Sure. Go for it. Give me a screenshot.
Okay. Share screen.
Yeah, we can certainly do a screen share here. Oh. It's just at the bottom of the Zoom chat there.
Okay.
There you go.
Scientific.
Yes.
Systematic. Methodical.
Yes. So what does it say is the usage of that? How many people buy food in an organized scientific way, right? That is a metaphor. It's using a metaphor. Now we can go back and look at the main definition, right? The main definition, which is based on or characterized by the methods and principles of science. That's the main definition.
Science is defined right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Knowledge. Yeah. Systematized knowledge in general, branch of knowledge studying with body of facts, truth systematically arranged and organized in the operation of general laws. Okay.
Yes.
So that is just knowledge that has been systematized. Okay.
Yes.
And if you want to look up the word system
dealing with
and systematized, it goes right here. There's his
definition.
But
it's dealing with a body of facts, right? A body of facts.
Which you don't claim to know any
body
facts.
of facts. Okay. There's no. That's not true. That is not true at all.
You just said you don't believe that science proves anything.
No.
So that's not a fact.
So, okay, so let me talk. Let me talk.
Hold on, I'm not done.
No. Let me talk because you've made a very, very big claim.
I will listen to you in just a moment. All right. So
let's give it 15 seconds then if you can.
All right. So Dr. McLaughlin, however you want to pronounce that, and in her peer-reviewed journal article that says science never proves anything, she says, a hypothesis is never proven correct, nor is a theory ever proven to be true. Words like prove, correct, and true should be removed from our vocabulary completely and immediately. Okay. So gets rid of all that in science. Okay. So if you don't believe science proves anything, who are you to tell me that the Book of Mormon is not true?
Okay, so look up the top where it says we can correct the misconceptions that science has done deal, and that a theory is a hunch. It's not a hunch, right? This is the thing. If you actually read the entire thing, he's trying to say that science is there to make models models that describe reality. That's what it's there to do. But you're just cherry picking and quote mining to sort of make it. And I'd like to share my
I can
screen
read the entire
so
article.
Let's let Mark finish there.
Okay.
I would like to share my screen if you could be so kind and show where you've sort of skipped over a dictionary because it didn't conform with what you want it to do. So if you could stop sharing your screen and I'll share mine.
Yeah, let's kick it over to you, Mark, and remind everybody that we
Please.
are going to be doing a Q&A at the end of this conversation. So get your questions in there.
So do take note that Kyle took his definition from dictionary.com, right? That's where he did. But he didn't take his second definition from the same place. And the reason why is because the definition is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and testing of theories against the evidence obtained. He went to some other place to get his other definition
Google.
because this one sinks him. That's why he didn't use the same source for both definitions, which is kind of a little bit dishonest, sort of keeping in line with his
dishonest by what definition of dishonest?
This is sort of, science is always written down as the rigorous systematic endeavor it builds and organizes knowledge through the form of testable explanations, predictions. If you're just going to your favorite dictionary source to get a scientific definition instead of science websites and science communicators, then you're already starting out dishonest because you're simply having
That's
a definition.
not dishonest by any definition.
And trying
it's
to
just
change
reading
the definition, trying to change the definition of science to what's in the dictionary, but not the dictionary that you used for one thing, another
changing
dictionary
the definition to what's in the dictionary. That's not changing the definition.
That you didn't acknowledge that it had multiple definitions, and you didn't use the first one in your definition.
Oh, I definitely do acknowledge that it has multiple definitions. But I would like multiple definitions.
I would like to see. Would you acknowledge? Would you acknowledge that experimentation is important in science?
Experimentation is
repeatability
important in science.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, experimentation is great in science. It's
okay,
how we learn more.
What experiments can you do, scientific experiments can you do to validate that the Book of Mormon is correct?
Oh, you still there, Kyle?
Hello, Kyle.
Oh, I think Kyle froze.
Is he still thinking, or has he actually gone?
No, I think things froze up on his end. We're still rolling. We'll give him a second here, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kyle, if you want to try rejoining us, we might need to get you to exit out and come back in. There he goes. All right, everybody. Well, while we're waiting for Kyle to get back, it seems like a lot of you have a lot of questions and things you want to push this conversation towards. Definitely get that into the Q&A for the live chat for our Q&A at the end by posting your questions in the live chat there. Me and Mark are just going to hang out for a second here while we wait for Kyle to come back. I'm half tempted. I don't know what the latency speed is on our upload right now. I have all of the tracks for the new song.
Okay, you just made me go crazy because latency is the delay between signal, and I think you're talking about bandwidth, which is the actual amount you can upload or download at any one time. So you just triggered me. I'm sorry, that's my field, and I'm triggered. I'd rather hang out with you than anybody else. I think that. Well,
let me fix up our screen here so we don't look so messed up right now.
Yeah.
There we go.
No worries at all. And you know, I'm gonna take this opportunity to give myself a plug. I'm Mark Reid. I'm a counter apologist from Australia, which is is all good and fun. And if you do like to see sort of logic, rationality, and science,
really sorry about that.
Give the big flying elbow to mysticism, superstition, and sort of religion. Swing by my channel. It's always a fun time. It's a great community. We accept everybody, and come on by.
Welcome back, Kyle, as well, and thank you.
Sorry, my computer just crashed on me, and I had to restart.
Oh, it happens, mate. Yeah. Don't worry.
That was an amazingly fast restart. So you know
it does. I've got a good computer.
Yeah, that was really good.
I wish I could say it was better because it has this crashing issue every once in a while. Yeah.
Well, the restart time was excellent.
Does it crash the desktop? Does it? Anyway, I won't try and diagnose your computer issues.
Yeah.
That's
So
okay.
I think, Mark, you were just asking Kyle a question
Yeah.
about.
I was asking what experiments could you perform that would demonstrate, like scientific experiments that would demonstrate that the Book of Mormon is in fact true.
Alma chapter 32 is probably the biggest, I think one of the more powerful invitations that the Book of Mormon has, that it really encourages people to experiment upon the word. And it goes ahead and it gives an analogy of planting a seed. Okay, you use the same kind of experiment for the Book of Mormon in finding out if the Book of Mormon is true as you would in finding out if a seed is a good seed. And if the seed grows and develops, you can tell and know that that is a good seed. And so it's the same kind of process that you'd use in determining the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon.
Okay, so are you talking about a literal seed or a metaphorical seed?
Well, it's an analogy. So you're taking like a
You're
literal
talking about a
seed
metaphorical
and an analogy. It's doing that and saying, okay, we're going to follow the same process for this as we are going to with this.
Okay, so you're talking about a metaphorical seed because it's an analogy, right? That's a metaphor, not a literal seed. A literal seed would be an actual literal seed, right? So you can't do that and see the outcome. All you can do is talk to people and say, I don't understand how that would be a scientific experiment where you have observation, hypothesis, sort of the experiment, and then basically repeating that to make sure you get the same result. I don't understand.
Well, you haven't really read Alma chapter 32 yet, I don't think.
Well,
and so you're just making an appeal to incredulity at this point. And again, it's kind of deviating away from the topic of this debate, which is just
it's very on topic. It's very on topic. It's I'm not. This is getting away from what. No. You're trying.
Okay,
to
then
have
you're here for the wrong debate.
You're trying to do a red herring to have a definitional debate when really we're debating the process and methodology that you can use. Look, okay, I'll show you something. Okay, here's just a random book. Okay, Digital Design and Computer Architecture. It's reversed. This is one of the books that I used in university, right?
Would you claim it's scientific?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So there are paths, there are stuff in here, there are circuit diagrams. If I wanted to, and I had enough time, like a ton of time, I could go through and scientifically validate every single one of these circuits. I could set them up. And indeed, there is experiments in there to set up these circuits and validate that, say, the truth tables, the outcomes that this book says are actually true. I can implement that. That's what makes it a scientific book. And I'm asking you how you do that for the Book of Mormon, that you go through and it says all of these things that are supposed to be true. How do you do that scientific experiment to say, if I do this, then I know that book to be true?
That's another topic. I'm just going to point out.
That's not another topic.
An English book. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is considered a science in academia.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
You can get a degree in science and humanities.
It's an arts degree. It's an arts degree.
But it's specifically a bachelor's in science. Okay. We can go here, right here. I've got a link to dixie.edu, or actually that's, I've got a link to an academic source and what you can get your bachelor's degree in. If you'd like to go take a look at that. You can, These are social sciences and,
yes, social sciences. Yes, I absolutely agree. They're sciences. Yes. But if you're looking at a Bachelor of Arts in English, that isn't a science degree. I don't know why you're saying that.
It is a science degree. Okay.
A Bachelor of Arts is a science degree.
Sciences department. Arts and Sciences department. Okay.
Yes, and it's
you can get your bachelor's degree. I personally have I can show you my degree. I've got a bachelor's in science with an emphasis in art, in drawing and painting. That is my degree right there. I can show it to you. Okay. And so are you telling me that academia is wrong in saying that art, like in drawing and painting? I got it from Dixie State University.
Yeah, I don't know whether you're studying some sort of science of art, like some sort of like examining exactly what makes art art. But like to say that a Bachelor of Arts is a science degree is just a gross misrepresentation of science.
So you're telling me that what's now called Utah Tech University is wrong?
I never said that.
Well, I'm just telling you what my degree says, and you're telling me that that's wrong.
Well, I think that
It's
that
not
degree,
science.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they're calling science over there, but you still haven't answered my question. And let's go back to it because you dodged it completely.
Well,
Of
that's
what
because it's a red herring,
experiments
and
can you
I'm not
do?
here to have that
No, no,
debate.
no, 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 no. You don't get to just change the topic when you
There
decide
is the
to.
topic.
You don't
That's
want to
the topic
answer
we started
a
off
question,
with.
Kyle. I'm asking you. You said to me straight up that experimentation is important to science. You acknowledged that. Then I asked you what experiments you can do in the Book of Mormon to validate that the things in it are true, and you dodged. So let's go back to it and let's say, okay, for instance, they crossed the sea in a submarine with a hole in the top and a hole in the bottom, right? You know this
debate,
story.
as I told you in
No,
my
no,
opening
no. This is
statement,
from the Book
not
of
about
Mormon.
accuracy.
This is from the Book
Let's
of
let him ask his
Mormon.
question there, Kyle.
How do you do an experiment to show that that is actually true?
Well, how do you do an experiment to show that your history book is science? Okay. To show that George Washington had wood teeth or something like that.
You can get evidence for that.
You can
put
evidence
together
for
evidence.
that. Well, well, there's evidence just so,
but
that's
this
a
is
really
a
broad term itself right there
whataboutism.
too.
This is a whataboutism. It's just, oh, but this other thing you can't. No, I asked you a question and you dodged again. What experiments can you do to tell you that these things that are claimed as factual in the Book of Mormon are in fact factual? And you will not answer. So
Okay,
stay on that topic.
My answer, okay, the Book of Mormon is all about building a relationship. Okay, it's all about building a relationship with God and getting a direct answer and watching miracles happen in your life. Yeah, that is directly related to God. Okay,
then it's not a science book.
Then your English book is not a science book, and you're telling me that all of mainstream academia and the way they define science, they're utterly BS and wrong.
I've told you how they define science.
No, you just kind of dismissed it.
Yes, I have.
So I've got my whole bachelor's degree in science. You're like, oh, well, it's science.
Do you want me to read out the definition again, like from dictionary.com? If you're so great on dictionary.com, would you like to hear it again?
Oh, you can go for it, but you got to go on and explain exactly how the history is the science and the way that, the long list of different ways that academia uses it is science.
Sure, and there's multiple scientific methods, but none of them apply to the Book of Mormon. That's the thing.
And
the
systematic but it applies
study
in drawing
of,
and painting?
Okay, so here we go. The systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical or natural world through observation, experimentation, and testing of theories against the evidence obtained. Would you agree with that definition?
Yeah, I agree with that definition. That's one way that it's defined.
So what?
It's not the only way it's defined. It's just one way it's defined.
So what evidence have you gathered that all of these things happened?
Evidence is a really, really broad term. Okay. And so a testimony is evidence, right? When someone says, I saw this thing, it is considered an evidence. It is evidence. And so when you go into a court of law, right, you want go and gather witnesses and testimonies and say, I saw this thing happen, right? And so the Book of Mormon has many witnesses to it. And
the
they all
problem
sign
with
their
that
name
is,
to it.
Well, the problem
so
with
that is evidence. You ask for evidence. That's evidence.
Yeah. If I could just,
you can say there's problems.
Yeah, if I could just talk, Kyle. I let you say what you want to say. Just let me talk. The problem with that is that all kinds of people testify to all kinds of things. People claim to see aliens. People claim that, leprechauns inhabit the earth. I met one guy who believed in gnomes. If you're going to be intellectually consistent, you would have to put your weight behind that evidence as much as your own, unless you're showing bias towards one form of evidence. And I do note that some of the people that Joseph Smith had as his witnesses actually turned on him and said that he was a fraud later on. So how do you explain that?
They never disclaimed the Book of Mormon. They held true to the Book of Mormon the whole time. Now they can claim that Joseph Smith was a fallen prophet later on down the road.
Yes,
but they never denied that the Book of Mormon was true. Martin
Right,
Harris is one of
and-
those people who on his deathbed said, you know, I fell away from Joseph Smith. We had a falling out, but the Book of Mormon is still true.
And the age gap between these men and their youngest wives was incredibly massive.
Which has nothing to do with our topic.
They had incentive to make it up. Like you opened this door, whether they are credible witnesses, because what makes testimonial evidence credible is having credible witnesses. And you're talking about the main witness being a man who was convicted of defrauding people through glass seeing. And actually was convicted of many crimes in many states, including treason, threatening to kill a judge, a whole laundry list of things. So if you're looking for credibility, as I said in my presentation, if you're looking for credibility, the people that you're claiming are credible have a real problem, because Joseph Smith indeed had multiple wives and lied to the people about it. He lied.
All right. So you can take a convicted felon, and because he's a convicted felon and he says dogs are mammals, does that make it wrong? No, it doesn't. Okay. Convicted felons can say things that are true.
God. If he said he saw God, I'd need more evidence than just his word.
So it's not just his word for it.
If you tell me like, oh, well, you know, I went for a trip down to the store, I would say, okay, well, people go to the store. That's a very mundane claim. That's fine. You know, I'd probably believe you just upon your testimony. But if you're telling me you went to Pluto, then I would need more than just testimonial evidence. I would need you to back that up in some way. And the problem here is you have a group of people with a good reason to motivate them to not tell the truth, saying a story that is not even credible. I brought up all the problems with the evidence, like how did they have submarines? How did they have horses when there were no horses in North America? How did they make a trip across the Pacific in a submarine? And you don't seem to think that requires more investigation than just, well, they said it's true. That is not scientific. That is the antithesis of science.
You just asked for evidence, and I said, okay, well, this qualifies as evidence by the dictionary. And
it's not scientific evidence, is it?
Oh, well, you are just moving the goalpost.
Well, when we're talking about whether it's a scientific book, if I say, does it have evidence, I would expect it to have scientific evidence, not just people said they did a thing. Like, there's no science book out there where people say, hey, I think that bacteria will do this, and don't test it. And they just like let bacteria go and then say, hey, bacteria did it, just take my word for it. That is not how science works. And it's bewildering that you think
of this claim for someone who does not believe in proof.
Do I have evidence for this claim?
Oh, so okay, but not proof. So who are you to be telling me any of this stuff?
Yeah. Okay? So now you're just
you can't tell me I'm wrong.
Of proof.
Yeah, you can't tell me
you're
I'm
going
wrong
back to the definitions
if
of
you
proof.
don't even.
I can tell you you're unscientific.
I'm
though.
wrong.
I can tell you you're being unscientific because you're willing to take the word of people saying it's true over the process of experimentation, observation, systematic testing in order to find out that it's true. And that's why the Book of Mormon will never be a science book or a scientific book. It's because it doesn't have that process. And you can go to other it's not special pleading. How is it special pleading? How is it special pleading?
Oh, well, that definition doesn't qualify, or neither does this definition qualify. It has to be my special definition of qualify, in order to qualify that. I'm not really seeing academia use that. You're kind of off, on the outside.
Academia does use that. Academia does exactly use the definitions I've been using.
What they don't use
is your definitions. Except what they don't use is your definitions, Kyle. That's what they don't use.
My definitions.
They
That's
don't
why
just
they use it so broadly.
Hey, it's no, Kyle. If you think academia believes that the Teletubbies is scientific, I don't know what to tell you. I'd love for you to go to your university or college and start telling professors that the Teletubbies is scientific.
It's systematically organized. It's got
a
beginning, it's got a middle, it's got an end, and it tells a story, and it uses some use. It has
the Teletubbies is not scientific, mate. I'm really sorry to break it to you, but there is no observation testing. Like when we're talking about science, we're talking about the scientific method. Do you
don't
know
you think
what
it has
is?
to do with audience retention, right? Don't you think they ever do any kind of studies on audience retention and what's going to play better to their target audience? And so they definitely do study like the things that they show in that. And when they show the Teletubbies on the screen, they're trying to teach children things. And so they are very much trying to be educational. It's an educational kids show. Right?
Yeah, so the field is called communications, Kyle, not Teletubbies. Okay,
and
there's nothing scientific about the Teletubbies. Yes, it is, because it does do observation experimentation. But you're trying to say that anything at all that uses anything systematic is science is wrong.
Dictionary
it's 100%
definition.
Wrong. No, it's not. I read out the dictionary definition and you agreed to it. Wrong. The systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. That does not apply to the Teletubbies because they're not doing experimentation. They're not doing testes of theories against evidence obtained. You agreed to that definition and it doesn't match what you're saying.
Okay, well, my proof is in the pudding. Okay, it's right there in the dictionary. Anyone can look it up.
Yeah, so this is sort of the dishonesty of sort of going, well, I've gone to this particular definition in this dictionary that I've sort of cherry picked out, that sort of, because his first definition was from dictionary.com, but he doesn't want his second one to be for that because he can't twist it to make it fit what exactly what he wants.
It's a standard thing. I don't want to have favoritism with dictionary.com.
Yeah, if I could finish, Kyle, like if you could let me finish, or are you just going to be rude? Is that what you're going to do? So if you go to a dictionary, what it's doing is it's telling you how the words are used in society. So very broad definitions. It's not telling you this is how it has to be used. And note the dishonesty of missing the first definition and going straight to the second. He is, he is cherry picking what definitions he wants to try and twist them to how he wants them to be used. And I want the evidence for these things happening because you agreed to my definition that says you required evidence. So what evidence, scientific evidence, do you have for the submarines, the horses, the people building a massive civilization that we can't find anymore? What evidence, please?
Okay, so yeah, submarines, I don't think they were in Joseph Smith's day. Okay, like submarines, was that even like invented yet? So how would Joseph Smith know what a submarine? Did he just invent the submarine like the moment he wrote about that? I don't think so. But yeah, evidence comes from God. Okay, we watch miracles happen in our lives. Okay, we say prayers, we get answers to our prayers. Many people have seen angels themselves. I've got many ancestors who've seen many miracles throughout their life and documented it. Okay, and so it's because we follow the word, we study the word, and we apply the teachings into our lives. We pray, we get answers to our prayers, and then God speaks to us and says, hey, guys, this book is for real. Okay, doesn't matter if they're given technology that was given to them, in advance before everyone else did. Okay, that's all irrelevant. Okay.
Yeah. So Kyle, sorry, go ahead.
So I'm just saying that's it. Okay, this is all about a study and building a relationship. Okay, putting the words under the experimenting upon the word. There we go.
Yeah, no, that's not science. So it doesn't matter what of your ancestors saw what or claim to see what or what you say you've seen or whatever. That is not what science is. I don't just go into
observation.
Kyle, can you please let me finish? You are so rude, man. What is wrong with you?
Well, let's just continue on. But yeah, let's try to mitigate those interruptions.
Because if you go into a lab and sort of say, hey, I saw an angel and my ancestors saw an angel and things, they will be going, well, how can we test for this? How can we experiment and find out if it's actually true? You think that people saying stuff is scientific. People just claiming stuff is not scientific. And the submarines, they called them barges. They were built tight that they would hold water unto like a dish, and the bottom thereof was tight like unto a dish, and the sides thereof were tight unlike unto a dish, and the ends thereof were peaked, and the top there was tight unto a dish, and the length thereof was the length of a tree, and the door thereof when it was shut was tight unlike to a dish. And they actually moved underwater because they were anxious. Oh, behold, O Lord, in them there is no light, whether we shall steer. Also we shall perish, for in them we cannot breathe, save it is the air in them, therefore we shall perish. They're talking about an underwater barge, not powered with holes in the top and bottom. And see, your physicist will know that if you put a airtight thing and a hole in the top and a hole in the bottom, the water will just fill it up. But apparently this didn't happen. So what evidence do you have that they actually sailed across the Pacific, I might add, in these devices?
That doesn't say that they only opened it up underwater. It never mentions that they opened it up underwater, except for like in the hole below. They open it up when it surfaces, and it doesn't say that they're always underwater. Okay, a lot of that time it describes them being at the surface of the water, but they went underwater periodically over waves. And the one that powered it was God. Okay, God was the one who powered it. He kind of pushed it along through the waves. And so that was a huge part of that story that you're kind of not taking into consideration.
Sorry.
And so if I want to prove that these things happened, I'd want to develop a relationship with this God that it speaks of and kind of watch him kind of make some movements in my life. In what ways is he powering my life and kind of pushing my life into different directions? And so for me, a huge thing for me was when I joined the military, and God woke me up one morning and said, "Hey, I want you to join the army." I'm like, "What? Why?" I had no prior inclination to do so at any time in my life. The only time I thought about joining the army was when a paratrooper walked into my school and he's like, "Okay, you guys should join the army." I'm like, why? What happens if you get stuck in a tree? You know, that was it. That was my only question, for my only thought to it. But I woke up with this strong feeling within me saying I needed to join the army. And so I knew it was from God. So I did it. I joined, and I was in there for 8 years, and there were 3 deployments, but I never went on a single deployment. It was kind of a miraculous thing. I'm not doing anything to, intentionally try to dodge bullets. I just said, okay, well, I'm going to join the army. And they gave me a $10,000 sign-on bonus to do so, which I ended up using to serve my mission. And I got it written into my contract. Hey, I want to go serve a mission. Can you do that in the middle of that? And so they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And so we got it into my contract, and they let me go on my mission, take 2 years off in the middle of all of that. And so my the first deployment that happened, because I joined in a time of war, they said, "Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and you're still in training here, so we're just going to go off and do this deployment without you." And so they went and did that deployment without me. And they're like, "Yeah, there'll always be another war." And so after that, I get my papers in after they get back, and I go out on my mission, and they're like, "Okay, well, you go keep doing that. There's always going to be another war." And so they went on that deployment without me, and said, "Yeah, you just keep doing good stuff." And
Is
so
that Carl's time? This is going on forever.
Oh, well, I'm just telling you about how I watched God move in my life, and I was just going about doing good things, and 3 deployments happened.
To do
Well,
with
you're
the debate,
talking about
really.
the barges, right? And we're talking about, and so there's many different experiences.
Have you
time
finished your time? I'm trying to not interrupt you, but this is going on forever. This is literally going on forever.
I'm sorry. You wanted an answer, and so I was just providing an answer.
So the whole idea that God powered it, how do we test that God powered it? We can't. This is the thing. Kyle wants to say, the evidence is that. Excuse me, Kyle. Come on, dude. What is wrong with you?
Are we having a conversation, or are we just taking turns monologuing here?
Well, I was going to say,
I don't know.
Just to be fair, you did
can't
get
seem
to talk.
Stop interrupting.
Yeah, just to be fair, you did have a long stretch there, Kyle. So
he could have made an insertion to say, I want to talk about what you're talking about there, because it seems like we're just taking.
That's true. Okay. Before we get derailed, we're gonna hand it back to Mark for one
open discussion. Okay. Well, if open discussion's the way we're going, then you're fine if I interrupt you whenever I feel the need. Is that right?
Go for it. That's
fantastic. Okay, no problem. So he doesn't know that God actually powered these submarines. He just believes that God powered these submarines. There's no way we can scientifically experiment and find out if God did in fact power these submarines. Well, he just wants to believe that is the case. How does he know God woke him up? His evidence for God powering the submarines, his scientific evidence for God powering the submarines, is that he woke up and wanted to join the military and says that it was God that let him do it. That is one of the most unscientific evidences I have ever heard in my entire life, bar none. If I wake up and I think that, hey, my sex drive made me want to do this thing, it doesn't mean that can power a submarine. The level of illogic and irrationality here. How do we actually test to see whether God can power a submarine or not? We can't. We just can't, because that is something we cannot replicate.
Well,
that is
a lot of
why
things in
the Book of
history.
Mormon is not a scientific book,
Right.
because there is no science he can actually use to demonstrate that it's the case. Like I pointed out with my science book, we could go through that entire book and with a circuit boards and probe prove everything in that book to a certain level. Okay. There's no
I'm
way
just
we
thinking
can
of
do
like
that
a
with
cherry pie. If my wife baked a cherry pie and wrote it down in her journal that I ate a cherry pie last week, and yeah, is there proof that she ate a cherry pie last week? I'm just kind of going off of what she said.
Well, this is the difference between mundane claims and claims that are extraordinary that require more evidence. As I pointed out, if you said you went down to the store or had a cherry pie, I would probably believe you. If you said you had a pie made out of aliens, I would probably need more evidence than just your word on it. Or if you said you had a elephant pie, I would probably I'm not sure I believe you, Kyle. I would need more evidence
it's so
to actually
essential
believe
to
that
see
that is the
miracles
case.
happen in our lives. And so my ancestors came to the Americas, just dropped what they were doing, left Scotland and England and many other places, and they just said, I read this Book of Mormon, and I've had miracles happen to me, and said, wow, this Book of Mormon is true. And so they left generations behind them of living in their homes, leaving entire lifestyles and communities. And then they ended up coming to the Americas because of these experiences that they witnessed. Okay, these revelations that they had.
We don't think something is true, and it's certainly not scientific just because they believe it's true and happen to take actions on that belief. That does not say whether the thing is true or not true. It means that they believed it was true. So that doesn't mean that it is in fact true.
I'm glad
there
you
are
disagree
people
with
who
Dr.
have blown
McLaughlin, who
themselves.
says you should
There are
never use the
people
word
who have
true in
blown
science.
themselves into towers because they believe their religion is true. People have killed themselves because they believe their religion is true. It does not in any way change whether it is true or not that they believe it. It's irrelevant.
Kick back and forth.
If you are being intellectually consistent, then you would have to say that that religion is true as well as anybody that's done any change of lifestyle. You would have to say that's true, and then you're into the weeds of, well, all of these beliefs are contradictory with one another.
Okay, and as Dr. McLaughlin said, truth, it's not a scientific word, according to her. But I don't agree with her, but apparently you do. So why are you using the word true so much when she banned that word?
Because they're talking about making verifiable, falsifiable models based upon experimental process. So what we're doing is we're doing models that are based upon a process, and those models try to, as accurately as possible, represent reality. The problem here, Kyle, is you just don't understand what science is. You've got no idea what it is. So you're basically... No, that's not an ad hominem. That's
you're
the
demeaning
truth.
me to try and uplift yourself.
No, I'm not.
Saying,
You just
don't
understand
these things, but
what
you
science
don't understand
is.
these things. You're demeaning me. Okay?
You don't understand what science is. I'm sorry.
Me. Okay,
all right. Well,
you've got that.
It's not demeaning you. It's demeaning your ideas of science, because
you're demeaning me.
They're not what science is.
You don't understand is talking about my intellect and what I do and don't understand, and that's demeaning me. Okay.
Well,
now
what you've described is not science.
Me. Okay. Trying to bully me is not going to be
what you have described is not science, and no scientist would agree with you that the Teletubbies are scientific.
Okay.
Dictionary is not a scientist. Find a scientist.
Dictionary is a scientific book, as I described.
No, it's not.
And you're welcome to believe that.
All right, let's kick it into the old Q&A, everybody. Thanks, Mark, Reid, and Kyle, for a lively discussion here. And I'm sure that we're going to get a little bit more into it as we go through Q&A. You know, I like to milk these Q&As for all they are. And, of course, you know, keep firing them in there. I mean, you know, half the Q&A, it seems like there might be a debate on when submarines were first created. I mean... you know, it seems like everybody's got a lot of different ideas about that. So maybe that'll be a future debate. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't created by somebody in the sort of, 2000 something BC.
Claim science proves anything.
We'll get to closing statements here in a little bit.
No, you can believe in your submarines, Carl. Go for it. I mean, it's delightful, but not scientific, I'm afraid.
Well, Noah's Ark can also kind of be described that way because it was so airtight all the way around, so it's getting
Yeah,
all this
Noah's
stuff.
Ark didn't happen either.
You're
There
welcome
was
to
no global
you're
flood.
welcome to think that. Okay, for someone who doesn't believe anything can be proven or true,
Do you want a flood debate then?
Is certain.
Do you want
in
a
fact.
global flood debate then? Global flood debate later?
I think that'd be
Well, if
fun.
you don't believe anything is proven to be true, I don't think you have any grounds to say someone is wrong about.
Yeah, see,
anything.
that is a red herring. That is just sort of
No, this is a direct.
Well.
This is my
It's
foundation
just
for
sort of
why
saying,
I
hey,
would want to have a further debate with you.
well,
it's kind of like a
okay.
fundamental.
Well, if you want to go down
someone
this
who
route,
does not
Well,
believe
if you
that
want to
science
go
is
down
true,
this
they
route,
should not be making any kind of debates whatsoever.
So it's just the only your black and white thinking is sort of the only time we can know anything is when we have absolute proof, which is how they're using the word in that category. So that is what you're projecting, but it is not actually what we believe. And science itself is there to make models that we can describe the world and therefore have knowledge about it. But you're sort of saying unless it's a proof, unless it's an unequivocal fact, like you have in mathematics, then you don't have the license to say anything, which is absurd.
Yeah, you're strawmanning me. I never said that.
What do you have absolute knowledge of, Kyle? What do you have absolute knowledge of?
Cats eat food.
Really?
My cat
Are your
eats
senses
food.
correct? Let's
My
go down this
senses are
rabbit
correct.
hole. How do you know?
I think we're
All right,
kind
let's
of
give
getting
him
off
5
on
minutes,
another
guys.
on
We'll
a
have fun
tangent.
with that.
Yeah.
Okay. My cat eats food. I can feed it. I can touch it. I can smell it. Yeah. I can observe
absolute certainty of that. You have absolute
certainty. Absolute
because
certainty.
your senses are true.
And you don't claim it can be proven that cats eat food, and that's why.
What
I
if your
feel like there's
senses are
any
wrong?
point in having any further debate with you on the matter.
What if you're in the Matrix? What if you're in the Matrix, Kyle? Kyle, what if you're in the Matrix?
Okay.
What if you're in the Matrix?
Okay. Even things on a computer screen. Okay. I like to play Ark. Okay. On a computer screen.
Oh, me too.
Okay. These are actual things. Okay. This is food on the game, right? And so that game is truth within that sphere, within that realm.
But it's not absolutely true, is it?
It is absolutely true. I am playing this game is absolutely, yeah.
Because it's not absolutely true for that character. They're just zeros and ones. That's the absolute truth. So
that is true, but that doesn't mean that it's still, that doesn't mean that.
That is true, yes. So it's not absolute truth. So you're not absolutely sure of anything either.
I never said that.
Oh dear.
Now you're strawmanning me.
Oh dear. Oh dear, you're not absolutely sure of anything either. So you're basically.
I never said that. You're not listening to a thing I said.
No, you're sort of trying to say if you're not absolutely sure, if you don't have proofs, this tangible proofs only exist in mathematics. There's a very good reason for that. It's because in order to have a proof, it has to be 100% absolute. That is what a proof is in science, in maths. And that's why in science we say we don't deal in proofs. But you want to ignore that. You want to take a definition of the word proof, misapply it, and then say, oh, well, I gotcha. I can now ignore everything you've got to say. Such a dishonest tactic. It is really, really bad, Kyle. It's really bad.
That's false accusation. Sorry.
No, it's not. It's absolutely,
it does not fit the definition of dishonesty by any means.
Yes, it does. It's because I've seen you take the second definition, ignore the first. I've seen you go to a different dictionary to get other definitions. You are being dishonest.
I can use both dictionaries.
But let's have a flood debate, Kyle.
Giving you a dictionary
let's have a flood
definition.
debate too.
Let's
have a
dictionary
flood
itself
debate.
I think that's
dishonest.
something we can do. If that's something you guys want to do
I'd
in
like
the
to
future.
hear Kyle agree to it. Can we have a flood debate?
You don't believe anything can be proven to be true.
That's not an answer,
you can't
Kyle.
Say that
That's
it is
not
not
an
true. It's
answer.
not a debate with
That's
you.
a dodge.
Well,
That's
I'll-
a dodge. You're dodging
I'm not gonna
right
do
now.
that.
Well, because I want to
You're
push.
dodging right now. Just say yes or no.
It's a simple no. Not unless you can meet
No,
that bare
okay.
minimum requirement.
You can't
of
back
being
up
able
the
to
flood.
claim
That's
that there
fine.
is something that is true
You
or
can't
false.
debate the flood.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
I
I know
can
you can't
debate
debate
it,
the
but
flood.
you
No,
refuse to accept anything as proof. You don't believe there is a proof. So if you can't say that it is proven,
I will
you have
accept
no
evidence.
means of saying it is not proven.
I will accept evidence, and I'll accept evidence that
You
is
can accept that it
preponderant
might
of the
be
evidence
true, but you
that
can't say
convinces
anything.
me that
That's not
something
a
is
debate.
true.
It's not even worth
Why
my
do you
time.
keep just talking over the topic? I
You're
will accept
monologuing, and you're not having a conversation and open
No, I
discussion.
am having a conversation. I'm saying that I will accept a preponderance of evidence that
And that's not
convinces
good
me
enough
that
for me.
that is true. And that is what we're dealing with. The whole idea that you need some kind of 100% absolute proof. If you're defining proof as just significant evidence that weighs the facts in your favor, then I will accept proof, right? So that's a colloquial definition of proof. That's one usage for it. Then I will accept it. That's not what science says proof is. Proofs only exist in maths. That's why I'm saying you're misapplying these definitions.
All right, we'll let you wrap it up there, Kyle, for that discussion. I think Mark's expressed his point there, so we'll give you 30 seconds and we'll go right into the Q&A.
All right, my proof is in the pudding. It's in right here in the dictionary definitions that I directly cited. And if you disagree with the dictionary, if you claim the dictionary is dishonest, then I'm being dishonest. But actually, that's really the dictionary being dishonest, and that's not really me. I'm just, the one who's quoting the dictionary.
Well, he said I could interrupt anytime I want. So
yeah, go for it.
I'm sorry.
I'm not really trying to monologue, and so when I start speaking, I have the courtesy to try and allow you to say, okay,
yeah, so
I got that.
You don't cite the dictionary. You cite like sources, like papers and things. Nobody cites the dictionary. It's just it's not a thing.
Obviously that's a demeaning me again, because I'm now suddenly I'm nobody.
Well, stop using it wrong. Then we'll stop having to correct you.
All right. Well, we have lots of questions here, and there's more pouring in. Keep them coming, everybody, because as you can see, we've got lots of fire on our heels now as far as our subject is going tonight. So we're going to get right to it. Big Bad Mama, $5.
Yeah.
Kyle, explain how Joseph Smith, as a supposed prophet, misinterpreted both the Kinderhook plates and the Egyptian Book of the Dead papyrus.
That is a loaded question. I'm not going to bother with that.
He did actually get these scrolls from the mummies that were papyrus and translated them as the Book of Abraham.
Actually, did you say Jacob. Actually? You did say actually.
Yeah. He mistranslated them into the Book of Abraham and the Book of Jacob somehow.
I don't think you can say actually unless you can say
looking at the papyrus went, they're Book of the Dead funeral rites. Very common in Egypt, but he just made up the Book of Abraham and the Book of Jacob from these funerary rites and somehow claimed it was divine revelation. It's ludicrous.
And you don't claim it's proven, so I don't think you get the one to make that definitive claim. A person who just claims science never proves anything should never, ever make definitive claims.
Really? Yeah, so that's not evidence for you. That's just like you fall back on that sort of straw man of my position of, hey, because science doesn't have proofs, then you can't actually claim that your evidence weighs against anything I believe.
You have no right to say actually
that is
ever.
The strawriest man. That is the biggest scarecrow I have ever seen, Kyle. Well done.
Scarecrow, huh? I misrepresented you. This is your terms. Yeah. And you said science never proves anything. So that negates all rights to you.
Yeah, that doesn't follow.
Ever use the word actually.
That doesn't follow. Because just because there's no proofs, as I've explained, doesn't mean you can't have overwhelming evidence for something that convinces you of
actually
the truth of
does
a
not
statement.
mean overwhelming evidence. That's two separate things.
So all of the Egyptologists were lying when they said it was a normal papyrus with the Book of the Dead that we find in lots of other tombs.
You don't get to speak on behalf of all Egyptologists, do you?
I said all the Egyptologists that like reviewed.
Oh, now you're moving the goalpost. You said all the Egyptologists. Now you're moving
all
your
the
own
Egyptologists that
all
looked at the papyrus.
Yeah. No. Okay. You don't get to speak on behalf of all.
Why
the
won't you address this?
You haven't even cited
Why
a
won't you
single
address
Egyptologist.
This?
You
Okay,
haven't even cited a
that.
single Egyptologist, so I can't speak on behalf of any Egyptologist that I haven't seen. I can't give account for anything like that. So yeah.
All right, everybody. While Mark looks that up, keep those super chats coming in. We're going down the rabbit hole now.
Okay, so the Mormon scholar David Bokovoy,
is he an Egyptologist?
Yes, Mormon scholar.
And you claim that is proven fact.
Terrell Gibbons has suggested the characters are early examples of Egyptian symbols used to translate that Demotic is Reformed Egyptian. So it's like mainstream scholars just went, no. John A. Wilson, professor of Egyptology. From time to time, there are allegations. I cited one of them in my opening. I can't believe this. From time to time, there are allegations that picture writing has been found in America. In no case has a professional Egyptology been able to recognize these characters as Egyptian hieroglyphs? From our standpoint, there is no such language as Reformed Egyptian. I rest my case.
As if it's a proven fact. Yeah, right. You're just contradicting yourself.
Hey, you said I needed to cite
You
somebody.
rested
I just
your case.
cited them.
You rested your case. I get you. So.
All right, well, let's move on from there. Satan himself is in the chat, asked a question. What evidence do you have that Jesus walked on water or even existed?
What evidence do I have? Well, I've got evidence. It qualifies as a testimony. And so I have many testimonies, and that's the entire New Testament. Okay, that's what testament means. It's a testimony.
Oh yeah, who saw that happen? Who?
The authors of the book that they talk about it.
Who authored the books? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Who authored
James,
them?
and John. Those are all authors of the book.
Yeah. Did it ever say that those people authored the book?
It says it right there. The book of John. That's kind of what the book of John means.
Those are traditional authors. They attribute them to these people. We don't know for sure that they actually wrote them. Talk to biblical.
Well, you don't claim to know anything, so I don't. Yeah, so that's
is that your response for everything? It's going to be,
because that's what you. That's your philosophy. So you got to own it.
Oh,
that's your philosophy.
That's a scientific thing, and that's why the Book of Mormon is not scientific, because what you do, which isn't scientific, is claim to know, believe that you know, think you can't be wrong, and that makes you right. And that's not how that works. It doesn't matter how much you think you're right. You're not right because you think you can't be wrong. So, this is why the Book of Mormon is never, ever going to
represent me correctly, please.
When you start representing me correctly, but I have. That's the thing. You're basically saying, because I acknowledge there's no proofs in science, I can't know anything. That is your claim, and it's complete non sequitur.
I never said that.
From the other.
I never said that. You're misquoting.
Then I can know things,
You're
right?
making things up.
Then I can know things, right? Then I can know things, right?
That I can know things. Okay. When did I ever say that? This quote. When did I ever give you this quote?
You're dismissing whatever I've presented. You're dismissing because there's no proofs in science. I say I know this because of these reasons, and you say no, but there's no proofs in science. How do you if you're acknowledging that I can know things? Why are you dismissing them because I say there's no proofs?
This is the world according to your knowledge. I'm not dismissing that. That was part of my opening statement. That
one of us is giving evidence of how we know it. You're not. I am.
I did. And so that was kind of part of my opening statement there, is just because it's not the Book of Mormon isn't part of your paradigm, the world according to your knowledge, that doesn't mean it's not the world according to my knowledge. And so I don't agree with the heliocentric model. I find a lot of different faults in it. But I still consider it scientific, even though it's not part of my knowledge, it's a part of someone else's knowledge. And because it's part of their knowledge, therefore I can call it scientific.
That's
and I just ask that you give the same respect to the Book of Mormon.
That's not what makes something scientific. It's whether it has followed the methodology.
It's systematized knowledge.
Methodological naturalism is actually the correct term for it. Methodological naturalism.
All right. Well, you know what I know? I know that it's time to move on. Thank you so much for your question, Satan. That wasn't actually a super chat. That was one I pulled out of the chat earlier because we didn't have a whole lot of super chats at the time. And I was getting a little concerned there, but it looks like we've got lots to keep us busy here. So we're going to keep on going, keep those super chats coming in. Like I said earlier, these guys have lots of thoughts regarding the subject here and lots of ways that they discuss it. So moving on. Sorry about your name. Not in a literal sense. I'm just going to probably butcher it however you wanted it pronounced. Udhef Hechu or Heku? I don't know. $5. Kyle, science is repeatable. Do you have examples of things only Book of Mormon teaches that we can repeat and retest and demonstrate to make sure that it's true?
That we can repeat and retest. Yeah, we can. That's the biggest invitation is prayer. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. And we can repeatedly pray. Yeah, and get answers to our prayers. And it doesn't mean prayer, we're not. Okay, you claimed that, but again, you claimed to not have any proof of that. So that kind
Yeah,
of
so
avoids
that
answer.
that sort of explanation isn't asking me. Actually, the Templeton Foundation did an experiment with intercessory prayer and found that sick people, if they're being prayed for and know
That's a
they're
void
being
comment.
prayed for, they actually get worse. They do worse than people that sort of don't know they're being prayed for. But the prayer didn't make any difference whatsoever to the healthiness of the people they prayed for. So we know prayer doesn't work. We've experimented with this before.
Yeah, I'd say Buffalo Bill's niece definitely said otherwise. Buffalo Bill's niece had a really life-threatening condition, and it wasn't until John Alexander Dowie went and said a prayer over her that she was healed. And it was a huge thing. And that was kind of what this whole thing, Buffalo Bill was a huge famous guy back in like the 1920s, and very, very public. And when his niece was miraculously healed, that turned eyes to a lot of people. A lot of heads turned, what just happened there? And because it was such a big deal, that really gave John Alexander Dowie a lot of notoriety, and definitely was huge help for him in founding the city of Zion, Illinois, which was the flat earth city, where they taught publicly and openly that the earth is flat in their schools.
Yeah, so like, go to a doctor if you're ill. Don't rely on prayer for a start. Like, see a medical professional. The whole idea is that prayer works. Prayer doesn't bring back, amputees' arms or legs or anything actually significant. It's always diseases that
you claim,
can sort of heal on their own or go into remission or something like that. It's never.
Which you claim has no proof to that.
Nobody has had their eye gouged out and suddenly replaced by prayer. It's nonsense.
That's incredulity. You cannot account for everyone in the entire world. You're just saying that because there's no one that you are aware of. That's what you really mean. Okay, there's no one that you are aware of that has happened, but that doesn't mean it's never happened.
Well, I mean, like I said, we've got evidence that prayer doesn't do anything. The Templeton Foundation did a study. There's other studies that have been done on the effectiveness.
Evidence, but not proof.
It doesn't actually do anything. Yeah. So go to a medical professional if you are sick. Don't rely on prayer. That's all I can say.
Alrighty. Let's move on from there. Well, I mean, that question was for you, Kyle. Did you wrap up all your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, Coffee Mom. Thanks for your membership for 6 months. It's awesome. Glad to see you in the old live chat there again. $1.99. Scientifically, Native Americans aren't Jewish.
They are welcome to make that claim. I wonder if this person is one of those people who claims that science never proves anything also, because that would be kind of a big deal, because that would mean there's no proof that they are not Jewish. There we go.
The DNA has literally no Middle Eastern markers in it whatsoever. Like that claim has been absolutely shot out of the water. There's no markers for near Middle Eastern DNA in the Native Americans. Just isn't there. And
you're welcome to say that. For someone who doesn't claim that's their proof, or true, that's another taboo for you.
Well, if you're saying that it is true, then you should
I never claimed it was
come
true.
Up with it because a Mormon researcher such as anthropologist Thomas W. Murphy and ex-Mormon plant geneticist Simon Sullivan, so even Mormons state that there's no detectable presence of ancestors from the ancient Middle East in Native American populations, and that poses substantial evidence to contradict the Book of Mormon.
I actually said evidence, but you can't claim it's a proven fact or truth as on your terms.
Oh no. So DNA evidence, we don't rely on anything for anything like, I don't know, crime scene analysis and stuff.
Is it proof of anything? You can just say it's evidence, but I can also point to a lot of different evidences, but that's just your evidence versus my evidence. But unless you can actually prove anything, it's just all null and void.
You haven't presented any evidence. All you've done is just state anecdotes.
I'm sorry, you've just dismissed any claim I did. So yeah, let's go on.
All right. Ozion had sent me a message there. He's been on here quite a bit, and thanks for being in the live chat there, Ozion, and doing what you do and helping out with the Discord. He had asked if each of you could define knowledge. I'll give you guys each
Justified true belief.
So I'll just Mark, I think he's already got it there. So I'll kick it over to you, Kyle. 15 seconds. Well, what is knowledge?
An acquaintance
to you?
with facts, truths, principles from study, investigation, general erudition.
All right.
Knowledge of many things. Okay, it's an acquaintance or familiarity gained by sight, experience, or report. I like that one.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for
Familiarity. That's not a declaration that this is true. It's just familiarity with the thing.
All right, excellent. We'll continue on from there, and thank you so much to both of you for answering that question there. All right, Jolly Roger, $11 Canadian. Hey, another Canadian. Kyle, I still don't understand how you consider the Book of Mormon to be scientific. Can you rephrase or use an example or analogy? Please elaborate. So we'll give
the Book of Mormon has been systematized. It's in chronological order. It's also been organized by the author of who wrote the book. And so this is the words according to Nephi. This is the words according to Alma. And so it's organized, and it's also using the English language, and the English language has been organized very systematically in a way that it can be understood. Okay. And so that's all systematic, which is by definition, which is the definition for the word scientific.
Yeah, so Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones is systemized as well into chapters. It doesn't mean they're scientific books. And they're not scientific books either. Like if you're saying Lord of the Rings is scientific, you can move the goalpost all you want, but that goalpost is a mile wide. That is hilarious. No, you're shifting the goalpost from, like, if you're actually sitting here and claiming that Lord of the Rings is a scientific book, you realize that,
systematized. It is systematized, and so yes.
Okay, no. If systematized means scientific, and you're
it does. It does by the dictionary. It does. Yes.
I said if, Kyle, if that is the case, then Lord of the Rings, according to you, is a scientific book.
Not according to me. Not according to me. According to the dictionary.
No, according to you, because nobody else shares your dictionary.com. Nobody else would say that Lord of the Rings is a scientific book because it is fiction. And the characters have just as much chance of existing in the Book of Mormon as they do in Lord of the Rings. We have the same evidence for both.
I'm just telling you.
There is no evidence for Bilbo Baggins, and there is no evidence for Nephi and his family in submarines.
It's not a requirement to be systematized knowledge. Evidence is not a requirement.
No, you heard it here, folks. Lord of the Rings is a scientific book according to Kyle.
It is, according to the dictionary. Okay, it's a mile wide. Mile wide goalpost.
No, nobody thinks that, Kyle. You are the only one that thinks that.
Obviously, that's not the case because it's going by the dictionary, and I'm not the one who wrote the dictionary. Thank you.
No, it's not going by the dictionary because the dictionary is not saying that.
It is.
It's not saying that.
It says
no. It's your warped interpretation of the definition that you have cherry-picked that has been applied to something to try to excuse that the Book of Mormon is about as scientific as Lord of the Rings. They're both not scientific books.
They are scientific by the dictionary. It's a mile wide goalpost. And like I said, I'm knocking that word off its pedestal. And that's exactly what I did.
You haven't knocked it off the pedestal.
You're just wrong. What the dictionary says. And you can say
you're just 100% wrong. There's nothing right about what you're saying. You haven't knocked anything, Kyle. You're just,
that's the only
you're just being ignorant of what science actually is. That's all you're doing is showing your ignorance. That's all you're doing.
Let's move on there, and as a fellow Lord of the Rings person, I just have to let everybody. I just have to let everybody in the live chat know. You know that scene where Aragorn kicks the helmet? No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be that.
He broke his toe in that scene.
I know, but everybody has to mention it when they bring up the movie. So I'm just being that person.
All I can say is full of a took.
Yes, exactly. I just I enjoy how every time Gandalf gets stuck on something, the very next scene he's there with his pipe.
It is methodical.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it is organized. It's written in the English language. It's got paragraphs and grammar, and it's all, or it's not just random letters. It's all been kind of processed.
Not scientific.
You're welcome to say that. That's the only thing you can do in this debate is just say, no, that is not case, and that's all.
No, I've outlined what science is. No. I've outlined what science is, the procedure of science. I've taken the thing from dictionary.com because that's the source that you liked using, and showed that your whole thing has no experimentation. There's no way you can replicate what you're claiming to be true. That is a requirement of science that you can replicate. And
according to your
can't.
very, very narrow goalpost that you've moved. So
No, there's no
Let's go
moving
on.
the goalpost. You don't get to decide what science is. You've just basically gone, well, I'm going to cherry pick, twist a definition from some dictionary that I didn't even get the source of that. You just said the internet is what you said, or Google is where you got it. Said you cited a dictionary, which is so wrong. I can't even, imagine who would use that in a
I believe this
sentence.
one's.
And then you sort of said, hey, because I've now sort of made anything, literally anything science, then I can claim my book as scientific. Well, I'm sorry, you can't change reality like that. It's not scientific. This is a religious book. It's nonsense. It's not scientific in the slightest.
All right. Well, let's continue on. We got lots of super chats, and I'm sure there'll be.
Oxford Languages is the one who defined it that way. So you can say Oxford is wrong.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll continue on from there because I'm sure that we'll eventually come full circle regardless. So let's see here. Yeah, I was just talking about Gandalf trying to calm himself down during the stressful situations, and we ended up getting right back on the topic. So let's get back to our Q&A, everybody. So Elusive Viper, nice to see you again, $5. FYI, the first submarine was created 200 years before the Book of Mormon. Now, I got a question, Kyle, just because I'm curious. As far as that history goes, when would the Book of Mormon been published?
The Book of Mormon was published, I think, in 1830. I don't remember perfectly.
Okay, so
okay.
He's saying
I just want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add that in Kyle's definitions, he missed definition 1, knowledge about structure and behavior of natural physical world based upon facts you can prove by example, by experiments. He skipped number 2, the study of science. He skipped definition 3, a particular branch of science, and went to 4, a system for organizing knowledge about a particular subject, especially one concerned with aspects of human behavior or society. So yeah, this sort of quote mining of the dictionaries to get the one that he wants and then twisting it, exactly what he's doing.
Can it be described as scientific? And my claim was that it can.
Doesn't mean the context.
It's got a mile-wide goalpost. Okay, it can be defined that way.
No. Your dishonesty has just been unveiled.
It's not
You're going
dishonest
past
by any
every
means.
single definition down to the very last one,
It's
Kyle.
not dishonesty. Your claim is just demeaning. You're just trying to demean me, even though there's no.
How can I be demeaning
substantiation
you?
to your claim.
I've just said that is dishonest to go and
and you have no proof of that claim to go off of. So you have just
I've got a lot of evidence for that claim. I just gave it to you.
And you have discredited all of your definitive statements.
So, no. I have a lot of evidence for that claim. I just gave it.
Yeah,
so,
it's just not proof, right?
So
let's go on.
All right. So
next question.
The reason I ask is, that would put it around like what, 1600s, because the next question or the next answer was discovering ancient history with Pat Lowinger. $2. Thank you so much for your super chat. Said the submarine was conceived by W. Bourne in 1578.
I did not know that.
And now, before you guys get to that, right after that, Ozion Talks says for $2, the first submarine was used in 1863 naval history. So
63. 1830 predates 1863.
Well, yeah, the reason that I was
tell
asking...
me more about how it was powered by God. Like, did he have a paddle? Did he have an engine? Is it a God engine? Did he shoot light rays down and power it that way?
He could have just pushed it the whole way. I don't know.
Very scientific. Yes, very scientific. Yes.
Well, the reason I ask is because we got all different answers here on like the submarine was conceived.
Right. No,
so maybe
I
that's
was aware
the idea.
The concept had been come up with before Joseph Smith looked into his hat and wrote it, or whatever he was doing to come up with this magic book. It wasn't really something that was implemented heavily at all. But the way that they described it in there was pretty bad. It wouldn't have worked. They need miracles to make it work, which, I suppose
I agree.
If miracles are scientific, then,
they
I
are.
suppose we should just all... miracles are scientific.
Yes, they are. So,
really?
Let's move on.
What's an experiment you can do on a miracle to replicate it?
To replicate a miracle. I don't think it has to necessarily be replicatable in order to be scientific. We've already discussed this. Let's move on.
All right, let's continue on. We got lots of questions, and people keep them coming in. We're talking about, is the Book of Mormon scientific? We've been talking about we've been talking about all kinds of different things. So, definitely check out this debate. We're going to put it into our podcast and link all of our guests in that description. But as for you guys right now, I see that we have 72 likes and 244 people watching. So once again, if you guys have those arthritic wrists, I mean, just use your nose and hit that like button, whatever you have to do to get this into the algorithm. So let's continue on. Discovering, that was, we went through the our submarines. Oh my goodness. For $2 from Davigar says, the submarine... Oh no, he's being a comedian. He said, the submarine will be invented in 2041 by a Mormon.
Sorry.
Oh, Davgar, thank you for some humor there. Back to the Lord of the Rings references. Speak friend and enter. Well, thank you so much for that, Davigar. That's just kind of fun there. So, Jolly Roger, $11 Canadian, says, Kyle, you mentioned people getting an answer from God that the book is true. Do you think that experience is different from those who say God told them that the Quran is true? And if their experience is different, or if different, so how? Or how so? Sorry.
I haven't met anyone so far that told them that the Quran is true. And so if they would like to have a discussion with me and talk about kind of their experiences that led them to that conclusion, I'd be more than happy to engage with that.
You haven't met a Muslim. Like, they all claim that the book is true. And the thing is that they've got exactly...
That's not what he asked. The ask is, what about a person who has been told by God that the Quran is true? And I've spoken with many Muslims, but I've never met a Muslim that told me that God told them that the Quran was true. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, I think the Quran is true because of this, this, and this. But that's something different than God telling you that it's true.
Has God told you the Book of Mormon is true?
Yes.
How do you know it was God?
How do I know it was God? That's a really good question, but I can only point to experience with that. And so there's a lot of different voices out there, and learning about, which as the Savior taught, my sheep hear my voice and they know me. And so the only way we can know the voice of the Savior is through experience. And it takes years to distinguish which voice is his.
But you can't be sure, can you? Because if you've only heard one voice, then you can't be sure that there's not another voice out there.
I don't claim I've only heard one voice.
You've heard multiple
I just said
voices.
There's many voices out there. And I've definitely heard many different voices. And so,
right.
Yeah.
So how do you know that the one that you think is God is God?
There's a distinguishing factor with the one that is God. And when I think about just going to church and some of like the really powerful moments, such as for me, it was in the military when I was seeing the night and day difference between the military culture and suddenly being able to go back to church. And while I was in the army and having that experience to just sing there, the Spirit of God, like a fire is burning. And I felt on fire. It was like throughout my whole body. And I could just feel God singing with me that, the Spirit of God, like a fire is burning. It was a very powerful moment. And
so how do you know that wasn't a infinitely powerful demon that's out to trick you?
Yeah, if so, then it was a pretty convincing, but I don't
So you
think
don't know.
Demons are out there teaching people to love. And it's just, like I said, experience.
Might be just luring you into a false sense of security.
That's not really that's not a definition.
But you don't know for sure, do you? You don't know for sure. Because there's no reason why an infinitely powerful demon couldn't sort of trick you in some way. Oh,
for sure. Tricks can happen out there, and I don't deny that. And so,
so you're not sure. Okay.
About that, I just said that there's a level of experience, and so that's all I'm. But
it could be a demon. It could be a demon. You've already said it could be a demon. That's fine. You're not sure.
Yeah.
You're not sure.
Okay, let's move on.
Alrighty. Let's scroll on up, and That was Jolly Roger. Thank you so much for this super chat. Zion Talks, $2. Why did God send other men to die, but not you?
Why did other men send... What? I'm sorry. Can you ask that question again?
I think he's asking in context of of your military services there. So you can choose not to answer that, where it's kind of a personal question, not really related to the subject entirely, but he is, the whole idea of why did God send other men to die, or you can even address just the broader question, why would God send people to die, if you don't want to talk directly about, your experience.
Well, it wasn't my story. That was it. And so it wasn't my story. There was part of their story, but not part of my story.
All right. We can move on from there. Thank you so much, Ozion. Jolly Roger, thanks again. $5.50 Canadian. Kyle, does believing your coworker went to university require the same amount of faith, belief / knowledge as believing Jesus was resurrected? So believing your coworker went to university versus believing Jesus was resurrected. So they're saying, does that require the same amount of faith or knowledge?
I'd say so.
Really?
Yeah.
So if I said I went to university, you think that would require the same level of faith or knowledge than if I said I rose from the dead?
Why not?
It's because people often go to university and enroll in university. People don't often rise from the dead. If you said, "Hey, I went to university," I'd go, "Okay, cool, no problem." If you said you rose from the dead, I'd be like, I would need more evidence for that, because that's not something that happens ever, that I've ever
according
seen.
to your knowledge.
Sure,
Okay.
Sure. What else would I base it on?
Oh, that's all you can go off of is your knowledge. And so
yeah. Right. So if I'm going to tell you, hey, you've got to worship me because I rose from the dead, and you just believe that, that's a problem for you, Kyle.
Well, Jesus never said worship me because I rose from the dead. So yeah.
But if that was the case, like if I said, hey, I rose from the dead, you would just believe that. Or if I said, I'm a prince from Nigeria, you would just believe that.
I didn't say that either. So yeah.
Okay, well, it's a really weird way to sort of evaluate claims, as if somebody doing something supernatural and going to university sort of require the same amount of evidence.
Well, it really kind of comes down to building a relationship of trust with that person, doesn't it?
Well, I've got a bridge to sell you, Kyle.
Okay. Let's move on.
All right, let's continue on here. So up we go again. Keep those super chats coming in, everybody, because we're having lots of fun having this discussion. Once again, we have a question kind of related to your military service there. So you can kind of choose to address the broader idea rather than talk about personal experiences. Kyle, how do you know God wanted you to join the military and not fight because you were skipped, and God wants you to join and you were skipped fighting because of your religion? I'm not sure if that was worded very well. Zarksorin, sorry, for 10 euros. Thank you so much. So how do you know God wanted you to join the military and not fight because you were skipped, and God wants you to join and you were skipped fighting because of your religion?
Well, there was a lot of miracles that took place between then and there, and so then and the end of it. And I kind of walked through them. I remember going through basic training, and I got sick one day, and I was like, okay. And I was kind of nervous because if you get sick in the military, they could recycle you, which means they send you all the way back to the beginning, and you have to spend the entire next summer doing the same stuff all over again. It takes like 3 months. And so I'm like, and I was getting all nervous. And so I ended up going on to sick bay, and which is military intelligence. Let me tell you, someone gets a tooth pulled and they end up going to sick bay, and they're surrounded by a whole bunch of other sick people. And so if you're not sick and you go to sick bay, then you come out being sick, and it's just messed up. But anyways, I get sent off to sick bay, and while I was there's a person that I needed to talk to. He was interested in reading more about the Book of Mormon. I had the a unique opportunity to invite him to go to church and to come kind of answer some of his questions regarding the Book of Mormon. After that experience, I got better like immediately, and then I was able to go back to work. And so there was kind of it was a really neat experience for me to see that I needed to be in a certain place and do a certain thing in order to kind of fulfill a divine mandate, and then kind of watch my life immediately change afterwards. And so that happened.
It was an infinitely
again.
Powerful demon that wanted somebody else to die, so they stopped you from going so someone could die in your place.
If you believe in demons, sure.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, so therefore that kind of outrules that claim, doesn't it? According on your terms.
Well, no. If you believe in demons, then it could be possible, right?
Well, it depends on your.
Why would demons existing depend on whether I believe in it or not?
Well, you're the one claiming it could be this, and if you don't believe that, then that kind of invalidates your claim that it could be this.
No,
so you're the one making the claim.
It's not logically impossible in your worldview. So this is an internal.
But you're the one who's
of
suggesting that it could be, and so I don't think you should be saying it could be if you don't believe that is the case at all. So let's move on.
What's logically impossible about it?
You're about your claim?
I'm not claiming that. I'm saying that it's possible that it could be a demon. I'm not claiming that is the case, but it is.
Oh, so you believe demons are possible now?
Well, sure.
Okay, great. Let's move on.
I don't believe that they exist, but I'm not saying they're logically impossible. I'm just saying
I think that just that takes you out of the atheist category and puts you into agnostic. So
how so?
That's my understanding of atheist is someone who does not believe that there is a God, and an agnostic is someone who believes there could be a God, but they don't really know. It's a possibility, but just don't really know.
What part did you miss when I said I believe there are no demons? Like, what part of that did you miss?
You believe that there are no demons? I thought you just said it was a possibility.
I said that it's logically possible.
It's logically possible. Okay, there we go. There we go. You don't have to believe in them. You just have to say that it's possible.
Not to be an atheist. All I have to do is believe there are no gods to be an atheist under the strictest definition. And I believe there are no gods.
As my understanding is kind of like a much more definitive claim. Maybe my definition is wrong, and I'm open to that. Of atheist is somebody who claims there is no God as a certain fact, and that's a difference.
No, because theism is about belief. That's what theism is about belief. Theism, from belief in the Greek.
Theism from the belief. Okay.
Yeah, it means belief.
Alrighty. Let's continue on there. Keep those super chats coming in. We're having a great time here, having a conversation there on is the Book of Mormon scientific. We have been going a little bit over time, so it's my common courtesy.
Oh, sorry, I'll keep the comments to myself.
No, you're good. You're good. I think everything's fine in that regard, but I will check with both of you to make sure that you guys are okay for time. So, Mark, are you good for time?
Good. Yeah, I'm good.
Kyle?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And did either of you want to get a refreshment or go relieve yourselves? I've
got water. I'm good.
All right. Okay. Well, I might skip out at some point because I gotta use the we won't get into it. But let me just get the next chat up here before we get to that. All right. So everybody's agreed to stay a little bit longer, so that's awesome. Thanks everybody in the live chat for coming out. I'm glad that we don't have a whole bunch of spammers and awful copy paste stuff. Don't use that as an opportunity. I swear, people, I'll start blocking. No, anyways,
and give a like while you're there.
Yes,
certainly.
I like. You know what? You're pressing it. I like it. So yeah, let's continue on. Jolly Roger. 550 Canadian again. Kyle, can you empathize as to why Mark may be frustrated as to why he came to this debate with the definition he did?
Can I empathize with that? I understand that he kind of came to a debate where he might have had an impression that this debate was going to be something other than it was because he didn't read the title of the debate.
Part of the debate wasn't.
by the dictionary. Is the Book of Mormon a
Yeah.
scientific book?
The title of
and
the
that-
debate
and so-
was not what is the definition of scientific. That wasn't.
That
the
is
title.
exactly what it is. It's what is the definition of scientific, and does the Book of Mormon qualify under that definition? That is exactly what the title is.
What does the debate topic say? What is the debate?
Book of
topic?
Mormon is a scientific book, which states that the word science or scientific, it uses the word and says this qualifies by this definition.
Okay, so look, Kyle,
So-
I basically said the topic of the debate was not what is the definition of scientific, and you said it was. You're not
is.
in reality at this point. No, it's not. The title of the debate is the Book of Mormon scientific? That is literally the debate title. Like your facts seem to go, well, I'm going to see whatever I want to see and whatever I feel like I want to see. Like the debate topic is
I'm the one who wrote
the definition of
I am
scientific.
the one who wrote the debate topic, so I am the one who gets to say, as the author, exactly what it means, and that is exactly what it means.
No,
Yes,
you
it is.
don't.
That
No,
is the
you
power
don't.
of the author. Thank you.
Did everybody
What are
behave
you
while I was
on?
gone?
Like, can I have some of whatever you're on? Seriously, just because I say, okay, we're going to debate the flood, I'm going to take that to mean birds. Like, are you serious? Like, what is wrong with that?
Okay. Well, if you could, yeah, you can go ahead and make a huge case for that and say
This is
in your
like
opening
the
statement,
craziest
that-
debate I have had in so long. This has been
welcome to my world.
Easy.
So, yeah. So, when it comes to, as an author, if you wanted to take the word flood and define it as birds, you have the power to do so. And so when you make your opening statement, you can say, okay, birds, or sorry, the flood in this instance is specifically referring to birds, like a flood of birds. Okay. And you could specifically say that in your opening statement. And then as me coming to your debate, hearing your opening statement, then I can say, okay, I disagree with that. And your
that
power
isn't how debates work, and it's not your debate, Kyle.
it is. I'm the one who made the invitation.
You don't get to challenge somebody on a topic and then say, because
You're
I
challenging
wrote
me.
it, I
made the
get
statement.
to write down what it means, and it means this other thing that it doesn't say. Wow,
It's an adjective, and I decide, and this is the state. This is a noun. This is the adjective, and this adjective describes this noun. And according to the dictionary, which I had
Kyle.
defined in my opening statement, and so I'm going by
Kyle.
these definitions, and so I'm the one making the opening statement. You're the one who's stepping in and saying no. That is wrong, and that's all you can do. That's your side of the debate. And so, if you come in here and try to reform an entirely new debate, that is called a red herring. It's separate from you're not.
No, the
backing my
problem is
claim.
what you've got in your mind and what you've put down as the debate and what we're going to discuss are not the same thing. Like, if you wanted to discuss
Is
the
the Book of Mormon
definition of
scientific?
scientific,
Yeah.
no, if you
Let's-
wanted to discuss is what the definition of scientific is, put that as the debate topic, and I probably would have said, no, I'm not debating that because I don't do definitional debates.
That's
It's
exactly what you
crazy.
signed up for.
So let's
No,
let's
it isn't.
Is it scientific? That is a definitional debate.
let's
No, it's
continue on.
not.
Let's continue on from
Scientific
here
is
because
a word, yeah.
we definitely understand that you guys kind of.
Can I say one thing? I
sure.
choose to reject your reality and substitute my own. There you go. There's
Go for it.
Kyle.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear the mod.
So I was going to say, yeah, I think we've kind of established that you guys disagree on that kind of fundamental principle about the debate topics. So, let's try to get down into the gritty of what we can get out of our super chats here, and see where we go with that. But I think that point's been established. So we'll just try to carry on from there if you gentlemen don't mind. Zarzaxon, I don't know. $5. Cats eat food. That's an absolute truth. But my cat also eats couch. No proof. Just opinion. What is your cat doing eating your couch? That's probably not good for them, but
Cats eat grass sometimes. Cats eat all kinds of things.
I've seen cats like chew on furniture.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that. So yeah, cats will eat anything, you know. Yeah, let's just
I've got a cat that will eat Takis. Takis. Yeah.
I
When
can't.
cats eat food is wrong.
I can't have Takis anymore. I went to Mexico and I got sick on the travel, and that was all I had was some Taki. Anyways, yeah, and yeah, no. Anyways, I won't make everybody sick, but yeah, it was a bad time. All right, Leal for $20. Thank you so much, Mark. I am the same religion as Kyle, and if I would agree with the definition of scientific method, and this method cannot be used to verify the story of either, about how they came to this content by submarine. This is
okay. So there's no problem
worded.
if you think that, if you believe in the Book of Mormon. There's no problem if you think it's true. I don't have a problem with that. It's no great big deal. The problem is thinking that the book is scientific. So I don't want to sort of say, hey, you shouldn't believe that, or this book is somehow something that you shouldn't believe. No, it's not a scientific book. That's all. Just like the Quran isn't a scientific book, the Bible isn't a scientific book. That there are scientific books out there, and Lord of the Rings is not one of them. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
You have to dismiss my definition.
We're kind of having a debate that well, I mean, yeah, you're kind of appealing to dictionary, to appeal to definition fallacy.
That's my opening statement,
which is actually
by this definition it qualifies.
I thought the question was from me. I didn't know it was for you, Kyle.
Well, it says, Mark, I am the same religion as Kyle. So yeah,
it's a statement. It's not really a question, is it?
Kyle, what is wrong with you? It's a question to me, and you're just jumping in.
It's not a question. There was no question. There's no question.
Yeah, but I'm talking about it. Like, what is happening here?
I'm having a conversation.
Well, let's
like when you were answering questions, I wasn't interrupting you.
Let's just bring it all down. Let's just bring it all down. We'll kick it back to you, Mark. For 30 seconds,
so you can believe in the Book of Mormon. And it is an appeal to definition fallacy that has to be the definition because you've read it in their dictionary. It's a logical fallacy, and therefore it's completely irrational. Go, Kyle. You can say whatever you want now. I finished.
You're welcome to say that, okay? But that doesn't make it proof or true.
All right. Lots more super chats coming in. Keep them coming. The debaters that we have here, Kyle and Mark, they both consented to stay a little bit longer. So as long as we have questions and things to talk about, we're going to keep this conversation going. So, see, I keep scrolling around. I got to get rid of some of these now. Hill Hugger, $5. Kyle, is it possible to design an experiment to falsify an extraordinary claim within the Book of Mormon?
Is it possible to design an experiment to falsify it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is it possible to? Yeah, it sounds like whoever's asking this question is falling into the Popper philosophy of science, which claims that it must be falsifiable. But Kuhn, the philosopher in science, claims that science does not have to be falsifiable. And so he gets into this huge thing on that paradigms are things that people are not questioning. And so they just mark it as an anomaly and they move on. So yeah, if something is falsifiable, yeah, that's not really a requirement for science. Now, can you prove it wrong? And then I'd say yeah, and that's kind of what Alma kind of he encouraged us to do, just like planting a seed. If you can know for a fact that this seed is not a good seed if it doesn't grow. If you can say, okay, that's a terrible seed, and you can know that this is a bad plant if it doesn't bear any fruit. And that was the huge invitation from Alma in Alma chapter 32. Said you can judge a tree by its fruit. And so what is the fruit of the Book of Mormon? Okay. And that is what we look for. And so if it doesn't bear any fruit, then by all means discard it. That's what he said.
All right. Any thoughts on that, Mark, before we continue on?
Yeah, so Kuhn doesn't really sort of dismiss falsifiety altogether. He certainly embraces verificationism, which still requires some sort of systematic basis for evaluating whether a claim is true or false.
Do you?
So he doesn't. So the verifiability principle sort of says that it has to be supported by empirical evidence and or logical requirements. And so even under Kuhn's sort of offbeat, and he was sort of from the 40s, like he's sort of a bit outdated, but never mind. But even according to his strict thing, the Book of Mormon still wouldn't be scientific, even according to Kuhn.
Do you agree with Kuhn's philosophy of incommensurability?
No.
You don't agree with that?
No.
Which is the same thing as Popper's claiming that science never proves anything. And so I don't see how they're kind of like the same concept. Science never proves anything, and incommensurability for the audience is just the claim that you can never measurably prove that one paradigm is better than another. And so we could say we've got the Book of Mormon and the whole paradigm of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that whole religion versus Catholicism. And you can't systematically or measurably prove that one is better than the other. Or you can say the same thing for Christianity.
But here's where you're wrong, because Kuhn's saying that you can't prove the old paradigm with the new one, right? That the new paradigm's got to prove itself by getting better results than the old one, but you can't prove the new one with the old paradigm, because then you're relying on the old paradigm to provide support for the new one. You're still using that old paradigm, but you can still prove or demonstrate that the new one's better by getting better results and more reliable results by using that paradigm.
It's incommensurability is immeasurable. That's kind of what the word means.
You can't measure the new paradigm with the old one.
Against the old one. And so you're trying to determine which one is better. And so,
but that doesn't mean you can't.
The professor from Leiden University went and specifically said that you can't know which paradigm is better. That I'm getting everything just from him. Who said it?
Yeah,
really
I don't agree with that. I think that you can use science to prove that there is a better method than science. I think you can do that.
You believe science can prove things now?
That there is a better method, yes.
Okay, so that contradicts your former claim against Dr. McLaughlin, who said that science never proves anything.
Yeah, but we're talking about logical systems here, not just sort of individual models, right? We're talking about sort of like maths, it's a logic system, right? So, so like in maths where you have proofs, you can say this thing has a proof because its logical system can have a proof associated with it. Much like when you give proofs for syllogisms and things like that, you can structure it in such a way that you can provide proofs. But like looking at those things, you're not doing experimentation and things like that. You're not creating a model.
All right. Well, I think cats eat food is a pretty observable, logical statement. And you disagree.
You said your cat ate furniture as well, so that is not a true statement.
By the dictionary definition of eat, to chew on, to digest, that qualifies. Thank you.
Well, it probably chowed down on some cloth and digested it, so yeah.
Well, let's continue on from there. Yep, cats will eat anything. We have established that. I'll just let everybody know in the live chat, too, that I have a new song that I'm working on for Modern Day Debate. I've been contemplating whether I should try playing a little bit of it at the end of this, because my friend just uploaded the track. So you can let me know in the live chat if you want a little after show, and maybe I'll play a little tune for you fellas. But if not, then that's fine too, because maybe, like I was going to say to you earlier, Mark, the latency may cause some issues with my audio as far as like guitar to the actual track. So we might give it a go. It can always get clipped.
Audio is pretty low bandwidth. It should be fine.
Yeah, it could be fun. I was going to say, but let's continue on for now. Forte, $5.
I'm going to hear it. I want to hear it.
Well, it's you'll hear it probably plenty once I send it over to James once it's done. But we'll see how long it takes for us to wrap this up and what time it is here. So let's see. Forte, $5. Why do people tend to lose their religiosity as they become more educated?
Who's that for?
Well, I think whoever wants to jump on that, we can get into that. So whether you think that's true or whether you have an explanation for why that could be true or why it is true, why you think it's true.
It's a loaded question, okay, to start off. Okay, some people actually get more religious as they become more educated. And it really kind of gets into how they define educated. I'm not the author, and so I'm not going to claim that exactly how they're defining the word educated. But for me, you don't have to go to school in order to become educated. In fact, my professors at Dixie State University told me, don't let school get in the way of your education. And that right there tells me that education is not about the building or organization that you're learning from. It's just a process of learning.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that you don't have to go to university and stuff to be educated. The problem is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And if you just go to certain sources like the internet, it's hard to distinguish what is correct and what is incorrect. So that's where sort of having a sort of academic background or sort of the academic process and the scientific process taught to you, you can critically think about information and sort of find out what is true and what is most likely true. Now, I know that they're speaking generally. I certainly won't disagree that certain people become educated, they become more religious, but generally speaking, people that do get educated become less religious, and I could probably find some studies to back that up. I think the reason is because a lot of the times religion requires a gap of knowledge in order to insert a god. So if you don't understand how the universe was created, a god might fill that role. If you don't understand, the formation of the earth or any of these principles, a god might fill that role. But when you start to learn and understand the reasons why we know or humans have figured out these things occur and understand the scientific principles that have led us to believe what we do, it becomes a lot harder to believe that a God is doing all of this. So I think it is the teaching of critical thinking that is sort of, the reason why religion rates are on the decline so much, especially in new generations coming up.
All right. And Kyle,
I think academia itself is it's kind of an indoctrination program. And so a lot of the teachers out there are kind of trying to steer people away from I think there's kind of a separation of church and state that kind of goes in there. And so, it's not really, and so I think that kind of ends up pulling. So if they're defining education as academia, then I think that would be a major, attribute or a major factor is that whole separation of church and state.
Well, I think that academics don't sort of teach you what to think. They sort of set you up so you can think. As Kyle said, these teachers were saying, don't let your education get in the way into thinking. And that's exactly what they mean. Don't just think something because we told you. Use that critical thinking process to analyze it for yourself, and they give you the tools to do so. Like I said,
I showed
you that they hello, just in the middle of talking here. Like seriously,
I'm commenting on what you're talking about, and yeah.
Well, could you wait till I finished? Would be.
I'm sorry, I'm not used to this whole monologue thing.
I didn't. What? This baffles my mind. I let you talk, and then when I talk, you say I'm monologuing. It's.
Go ahead and finish.
Wow. Okay. So the book that I showed, for instance, with all of the sort of electronic circuits and things like that, all of the truth tables, all of the things we do in sort of digital communications and computer architecture, they show you how to design that, how to think about it, how to do it. They don't just tell you, hey, this is the only way. In fact, they like you to think beyond that box kind of thing, but in a critical way, not just believe anything you're told. That's all.
My science textbook says the Earth is the globe because we said so, and and I've got a whole series on that called Modern Earth Science Destroyed, just pointing out all of the times that this book just makes all these definitive statements and expects you to go off of it because they said so, and they don't encourage you to ask questions for yourself. Just believe it because we said so. That's it. So that's a huge problem.
What did you do in university?
What did I do in university? That was part of my generals, but I'm actually just picking apart like a typical high school. That's my series, Modern Earth Science Destroyed, is just picking up a typical high school science textbook and just picking that apart, because that's exactly the way they teach it. And so,
well, they won't do that in sort of, you know,
that's not true either. I can point to a college geology textbook or astrology, and they just tell you, well, the sun is this far away because we said so. They don't tell you, they don't encourage you to doubt that. They don't encourage you to think for yourself on that matter. They just say,
but they tell you
the sun
why.
is this many 93 million miles away, and that's it. They expect you.
They tell you why, like parallax movements, the distance that light travels. That there's a lot of reasons why.
And they're saying that, just trust us on that. That's it. They don't say this could be the case. They say it is the case.
All right. Well, let's continue on from there. Jolly Roger, 550 again, Canadian. Kyle, does consensus of scholarship mean anything to you, or do they have the same knowledge authority as anyone else?
A consensus in scholarship is just a book of the month club kind of a thing. It's kind of consensus is a bunch of people adhering to the same kind of manner of belief. And so I can say, in my paradigm, I can just point to the Latter-day Saints, and I can point to the apostles and prophets and say, hey, there's a consensus here. Okay. And that's part of this paradigm. And so you can point to all these people who believe in one thing, and I just see that as a group of people who are following a systematized organization or a group of beliefs. So that's no different than religion to me.
All righty. Oh, let's see here. Simbi Scuggy, $5. Kyle, as a former 19D, can you please elaborate on your military claims? Were you RA or reserve or NG? They let you leave for
NG,
2 years?
I was 13 Bravo.
What MOS were you?
13 Bravo.
Okay. So I say you didn't have to answer all that because it's very
okay.
personal stuff. So
NG is National Guard. 13 Bravo is cannon, field artillery.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you for that. And let me just pull that there.
You're field artillery, and you didn't have to, you didn't use adjustments for the curvature of the Earth.
Amazing, right? Yeah, that's true. I never had to adjust for any kind of curvature of the Earth, and we could shoot a garbage can from 20 miles away dead on.
Over the horizon.
All right, well, let's continue on. Zion Talks, $2. Smugly citing a dictionary is still smug and oof. So,
okay.
Any comments there?
No.
No? Okay. Kyle, Zaxarin, €10. If you want something to happen, pray. It will happen. If it does happen, God does not. If it does not happen, God does not want it to happen. Where is your evidence for that conclusion?
We don't say prayers to command God what to do. We say prayers to allow our will to become in harmony with God's will, and to kind of develop that relationship. And that's the whole purpose of prayer.
Yeah, so to me, it's basically just, it's called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. It's basically taking all of the hits as reasons why it works and ignoring all of the misses. So if you pray for everything all your life and, things happen for you, you'll see that as, yes, it works, without seeing all the times you've prayed for something and it hasn't worked.
I don't feel like that addressed anything I said. Okay.
Textbook Texas sharpshooter. Yeah, I was just sort of
that's
why
if you command God to do things, then that would be the case.
Yeah, I was just sort of addressing why prayer doesn't, sort of, people think that prayer works. It's because
that your
Texas
sharpshooter accusation only applies to someone who is thinks prayer is all about commanding God what to do.
Didn't say that.
That's the application to it. I can't see any other application where it could be guilty of that accusation.
No, because if you think it works, you're counting all the hits and you're dismissing all the misses.
That is commanding God what to do, and that's a hit, right? If I command God to go and open this door, and that door opens, then that would be a hit. And if I command God to command the door to open, and the door doesn't open, then that is a miss, right? And so
no, but if you ask God that you want the door to open and it opens, that's a hit. If you ask God, could he please open the door, and it doesn't, that's a miss. But you're counting all the hits and you're ignoring all the misses. The same thing happens if you just ask.
Okay.
All right, well, let's continue on. So Jolly Roger, 550 Canadian again. Thanks, Jolly Roger. Kyle, when you were asked to debate this topic, did you truly think it was about did you truly think it was about if, I think that's what they meant, if things were chronologically organized? So did you think the debate was really about whether things were chronologically organized?
That is why I wrote that in my opening statement. I wrote it down beforehand. So yes, that is exactly what I came to the debate for. That's why I made the opening statement and tell you what the opening statement is and exactly what we're debating against.
All right. Let's continue on. Zark Zaran, €5. Kylie claim there is no evidence this is not true. They were responding to somebody else in the chat there, it seems. There is no evidence this is not true. Does not prove your claim is true, but there is a difference in probability.
I can't claim any kind of probability unless I can take everything into account. And so if something is not numbered, there is no probability.
Okay, any thoughts on that, Mark?
Sorry, I do apologize. What was the question?
There is no evidence this is not true. Does not prove your claim is true, but there is a difference in probability.
Yeah, so a lack of evidence doesn't but so a lack of evidence is an absence of evidence is not evidence of absence unless we expect to find evidence. Like if you go to your letterbox and there's no mail in there, that doesn't mean you don't have mail. Like you can't prove that, but it should be there, so it kind of does. The lack of evidence for all of these cities means that it is highly probable they never existed, because we are missing evidence that should be there. So this whole idea that no evidence, you can't, it's not good evidence. Well, yeah, sometimes it is when we absolutely expect it to be there.
Okay. Yeah, any thoughts on that, Kyle, or do you want to continue on?
I think I shared what I had to say on that. If there's no numbers, if you can't number it, you can't claim that there's a probability to it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's continue on. Zarkzaran, Kyle, your body was burning, in quotations. So God wants you to burn for your desire, not take part of killing, or to not take part of killing. What?
Were they? I don't think that's even a complete thought.
I'm not sure.
I think
they've got a couple other questions here. So, yeah, Zarkzaran, if you want to kind of clarify what you meant in chat there, we're going to continue on because I'm not sure what you meant. Your body was burning, so God wants you to burn for your desire, not to take part of killing, or to not take part of killing. Yeah, it's not really making sense to me here. So if you guys can't piece it together, we'll wait for see what's going on.
So maybe he desired you to do something but not take part in killing. Is that what they're trying to say?
Like, I joined the military fully expecting to get deployed at the time. That was a huge expectation I had. And so when I did not get deployed for 3 deployments and kind of looking back on that, I just said, wow, that's kind of kind of walking through a battlefield and not getting shot. Okay.
So maybe they mean, why did God push you to join at all just to stop you from being deployed? Like, why didn't he just not push you to join the military at all?
Well, I told you when I joined the military, I got a $10,000 sign-on bonus. You know what I did with that sign-on bonus? It paid for my mission, my 2-year mission to East LA to go and preach the gospel out there. So yeah, that was really useful money coming out of somewhere. And in the meantime, I got paid to get a workout, which is amazing. So that was what I kept telling myself all throughout basic training, getting paid to get a workout. A lot of people pay other people to go out and join a gym, and here the gym has come to me and they're paying me to join this gym. Amazing.
God wanted you to bulk up. It's your okay. Sure.
All right, well, let's continue on. Let's see. The Real Mad Dog Mac, $9.99. How do you reconcile discovery that Native Americans do not share a single shred of DNA with any Jewish lineage? Doesn't this alone disprove the claim natives are descendant from the 12 tribes of Israel?
Does it disprove it? Or, I don't know, that's kind of going off this whole basis of science proving things. And so even though I do believe that science does prove things, I haven't seen any actual papers or anything like that to actually go off of to confirm or disconfirm that claim.
All right. Well, let's continue on.
Some people just do sloppy work and say, oh, well, I've measured a few people, and that automatically goes out to every single Native American out there. And I don't think every single Native American out there has really undergone this test. So yeah, that's kind of my view on it. And so if they'd like to substantiate their claim that this is the case, then we can talk about it.
Wasn't the land uninhabited when they got there? And it was the
Lamanites never said that.
Wasn't it the Lamanites that sort of like the Native Americans were supposed to descend from the Lamanites?
Many did, but it never says that it was uninhabited. And so, yeah. It says that the Nephites were they went extinct. They all got demolished. But it never says that the land was uninhabited or that no other people came to the Americas after they got here.
All right. Well, let's continue on there. Jolly Roger, $11 Canadian. Kyle, when you set up the debate and chose the definition, did you have a hunch or idea that Mark wasn't going to use the same? As you say, you set this debate up and got to set the definition in your opening?
I set the definition in my opening statement, and that way there would be no question of the terms of this debate in that opening statement.
Great. Yeah, and the other part of that was, did you have an expectation that Mark would share that definition?
Well, his job as being an opponent is to discredit my statement and say, no, that's not the case. Even if I'm saying cats are mammals, okay, if he comes to a debate against me and my opening statement is cats are mammals, then it's his job to say, no, they're not.
Yeah, so I did do that. I pointed out where he was going wrong in his definitions. I pointed out from science textbooks where the definition was different. I pointed out that the definition was different from different sources. So yeah.
I said that the dictionary says this, and it's his job to say, no, the dictionary does not say that.
Appeal to definition fallacy.
I'm just reading the statement from the
appeal to definition.
You have no
fallacy.
Substantiation for that claim.
You're appealing to a definition, right?
You haven't. That's the opening statement of saying that this definition. But just because I'm saying that this word is defined as that does not automatically make it guilty. Are you appealing to a definition? Okay. Just appealing to a definition does not make it a fallacious claim. So there's more to that definition of appeal to definition fallacy. That's just a title. Okay, that doesn't mean that saying this word is defined this way is a fallacious reason. Okay.
So it's an erroneous definition.
So kind of Texas sharpshooter. Okay. Oh, well, you're shooting a gun. That doesn't yeah, just because you can say the name of a fallacy doesn't mean the it's guilty of that crime.
Well, I think people can decide for themselves whether.
Yes, they can, and they can look up the definition of appeal to definition and make their own case on that.
Alrighty, so we're getting close to the end of our super chats here. So everybody, keep them coming on in if you want the conversation to keep going. But if not, we're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. Dragon for €6. Mark, can you elaborate a bit on the black and white thinking we've witnessed today? It kind of seems to me that this is where it goes wrong in Kyle's thinking.
Yeah, a lot of people in religion have this kind of black and white. Well, either you know definitively or you don't know definitively, and there's no sort of levels of confidence in knowledge. Like if we have an overwhelming amount of evidence, our confidence can be very high. But since we're honest, we can always say, hey, there's always a tiny possibility that we're wrong, like 0.0000001% that we're wrong. So we don't say it is proof because that assumes 100% confidence. So it's because we're being honest. It is the dishonest person that will say, hey, I have to be right. I can't be wrong. It's I know this 100% certainty. They're the ones that are usually sort of making a more extraordinary claim about knowledge than people that say, hey, our confidence level is very high based upon these scientific principles. They work for everything we use in technology today. That is why we have confidence in them. But we would never claim 100% certainty because that is unreasonable. So sort of using your honesty to sort of say, hey, we can't be 100% confidence in anything, and sort of say, well, you don't have proof, you can't say anything. I think that's really disingenuous.
Oh, it's disingenuous to say my cat eats food. Okay, got it.
All right,
and make definitive claims that are that simple.
Well, let's continue on. Let's see. Lil, $10 statement. I would never argue that either coming here in a submarine cannot be tested by the scientific method. So I, Kyle, would agree with this statement. I'm not sure. Once again, that doesn't read very well. I
was the author of the book. It was brother Jared who ended up crossing the oceans in the barges.
Yeah, it was their descendant that wrote the book. It wasn't them that crossed. But just say Jared instead. Just say Jared.
Brother of Jared.
Okay.
His actual name was Mahanrai Moriankamer, but people just call him the brother Jared because it's easier.
Well, just the two families, right, in the submarine. Like, I think they're sort of saying you can't scientifically test it to see if it's true. Would you agree with that statement?
I'm sorry, I didn't. What was the question?
Well, the two families that crossed in the barges that they called it in the book, from the Middle East to the Americas, there's no way to scientifically test that to see if it's true, is there? Would you agree?
Well, there's a lot of science that's pointing at the Olmecs, and we believe that it's very likely that the Olmecs were actually the Jaredites.
Okay, do you have any evidence for that?
The Olmecs, the Jaredites were completely wiped out, and the Olmecs were also completely wiped out. So they're both two extinct civilizations that are fitting the right kind of time period. And so, I think that right place, the right time, and the same thing happened to both of them. So that's evidence.
Well, I do note that their architecture, all of their arts, their systems that they had in place, their culture, everything was different from a Middle Eastern culture. That's why archaeologists don't believe
the Olmecs, the brother of Jared, no one claimed that the brother of Jared was from the Middle East.
Where were they from?
Exactly. Huh?
Where were they
from? It doesn't say. Actually,
was Jared from the Middle East?
Well, there was the Tower of Babel, and that was kind of a thing. in there. And so I guess you could say that he did travel from kind of that area. So that would be the Middle East. So I was wrong on that one. So I think that would suggest he was from the Middle East.
Alrighty, let's continue on. Lyle, again, for $5. What can I do to test using natural things to test and see if the story of Ether coming to this land is true?
What observable, testable things can you do about the Book of Ether and whether it's true or not? The biggest thing with the Book of Mormon is always about building a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's another testament of Jesus Christ, and everything in the Book of Mormon points to him. And so as you come to know him better, it's through that relationship that you can know these things are true. And so I know Mark pointed out in his opening statement, he brought up animals, and no one, we're still discovering new animals every day. We can't just, lift up all of the Americas and sift them out and say, okay, there are no horses or something like that, okay, or elephants in Americas, but we can't account for every single animal that's ever lived in the Americas. And so, just because we're not aware of any modern day examples of, oh, look, I found some elephant bones in the Americas, okay, just because we can't point to any specific examples like that doesn't mean they never happened. And so a lot of science is kind of coming out today that are kind of pointing towards different instances in the Book of Mormon. So in a previous debate, I pointed out the human sacrifice, and I've pointed out that being evidence of the Book of Mormon. But again, this whole debate is not about whether or not there's evidence. It's about whether or not the Book of Mormon is systematic.
Alrighty.
Yeah, as I said, no evidence where we expect to find some, that we should expect to find some of these animals. We don't. We find none of them whatsoever. So that's something we would expect to find, and we don't. Also, the civilizations we'd expect to find them, we don't. Especially when it's supposed to be sort of a civilization of 1.5 million people. It doesn't just vanish. So all of these are reasons why the evidence sort of speaks against the book being true. So it's kind of, and plus the whole idea that you should appeal to your feelings of Jesus in your life, that's not empirical evidence, which is what they ask for. Empirical evidence is one stuff that you can touch and see and sort of use your senses to ascertain, not feelings. It's not empirical evidence.
Well, it's kind of like coming to know that my wife is a real person. Okay. And so I can know that my wife is a real person by having experiences with her. Okay. Those are tangible physical experiences with my wife, and kind of actually meeting her, talking to her, and having experiences with her. Those are all observable things, empirically observable things. And so if I wanted to develop a relationship with Jesus Christ, it's not just feelings, it's also about observation. Okay.
Right.
Observation.
What senses do you use? Senses.
Your eyes.
What senses do you use?
Your eyes.
You see Jesus Christ.
I don't claim to have, in dreams. In dreams, I've seen him.
Not
in
dreams. Like when
hey, that's empirical. You're talking about
see.
observation. Okay?
No, empirical.
You can observe
senses.
things in dreams, and I've got a whole series on different things that I've seen in dreams that have come to pass in very interesting ways. And so dreams can be interpreted, and dreams can sometimes tell the future.
Maybe you should have defined what empirical means, because you've got a different definition of empirical that is our senses, like sight and touch and hearing, like, and your dreams don't count for that's spectral evidence, not empirical evidence.
Okay, well, when we actually physically see different things come to pass, okay, and while we are conscious and awake, that is empirical evidence of something that we saw in a dream. And so I saw in a dream one thing, and then it comes to pass. That's empirical evidence.
All right, let's move on from there. Jolly Roger, 550. We're almost to the end of our super chats here, everybody. So we'll get wrapping up here pretty soon. Unless anybody has any other questions, pop them in the old live chat. Jolly Roger, 550 Canadian. Kyle, do you trust in the leadership of the Latter-day Saints Church, or do you question them? They report a real Adam and Eve. What do you think?
I've provided a video showing my lineage going all the way back to Adam and Eve. And I think that's evidence of Adam and Eve. I don't claim that's proof of Adam and Eve. I just call that evidence of Adam and Eve.
I got to see that.
Yeah, it's on there. You got to see my video on my relation to Bob Nodell. It's both of our lineage going all the way back to Adam and Eve. It's pretty cool. So it's worth checking out.
All right, any thoughts on that, Mark?
Oh, yeah, there wasn't an Adam and Eve. Like, the population of humankind doesn't go to two people, even though they say that it does. It doesn't. We can track this using DNA. The mitochondrial DNA shows there was no two people originating. The inbreeding that would constitute would be horrendous as well. So, yeah.
Alrighty.
Again, he's just making his statement based on his thing. So if I said, yeah, cats are mammals, it's his job to say, no, they are not.
Okay, so Adam and Eve had children. Who did they have children with?
Each other.
And they're brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah.
And that's not inbreeding.
I never said it wasn't.
Okay.
Okay. Next question.
All right, let's continue on. Coconut cream pie for $2 says, "Dang, what's it? Calm down with the fallacies." I think they're trying to accuse you.
Referring to me, probably.
I think they.
Yeah, I usually don't go on that much about fallacies, but I think that sort of when you're in a debate about a topic and somebody's just saying, "Hey, my definition is the one that we're going to use because mine," and then sort of basing your entire argument on that is sort of a very it's a very sort of weird way to debate anything. That's why I generally don't do definitions about debate, because there's no reason why anything can't be defined as anything. Usually we go for normative definitions, not sort of one that you've cherry picked and said, "Hey, well, this supports me, so I'm going to cherry pick this one." The entirety of academia and science sort of agrees on what constitutes science. I had to do science communications and stuff when I went through uni. Nobody's thinking Lord of the Rings is a science book. I'm sorry, nobody's thinking. Except Kyle, apparently.
Nobody. I'm a nobody now.
All right.
Yeah, and sort of the really sort of weird stuff about proofs and things, I think it's because, I usually don't point out fallacies, but the ones that are being made are really grievous. So I kind of am pointing them out in this debate, sure.
The dictionary was written by nobody.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Oh, the dictionary was written by nobody.
Because
it was written by nobody.
That's yeah, they're the ones who defined it this way.
It's an accumulation of different usages of words throughout society. So all they do is see how people are using words in common parlance and in certain areas, and then
so that means some people actually do, and unless you're claiming all those people are nobody.
There's no reason why I can't call this cup, right, a Kyle. There's no inherent objective reason. All words are made up.
Okay.
All right.
So your claim is that nobody used that word, and now you're kind of contradicting yourself, because when you defined or described all these things, you're saying that the dictionary is based off of people using them. So in order for that to be true, all those people who use the term scientific as just anything that is systematic, all of a sudden all those people are now nobody.
People that aren't involved in science may very well use it like that. It is incorrect.
Right. So that now we are kind of moving the goalpost, and yeah, okay.
All right. Well, we're getting on to our last question here. So, in proper nerd fashion, which would make my wife very proud because she is our DM. She is she's awesome. So I'm gonna try to do my best elusive viper here to do you some justice here, and I'm gonna use my old friend's little piece that he left me here to add to my impression. I wish I had a wizard's hat. Perhaps they were not the Olmecs. Perhaps they were the elves who belong with the Valar. Left the realm of men at the end of the third age.
I mean, you joke, but it could have been dwarves, being destroyed by smog, because apparently dinosaurs were there too. So,
Because in the world that nothing is ever proven, anything could be possible. Yep, I get it.
Oh, I don't think that's true at all. I think some things are not possible,
well,
either epistemically possible or
by Dr.
logically
McLaughlin's
possible.
words, nothing can ever be described or should ever be described as true anyway. So there you go.
You're sort of really mischaracterizing what he was saying there. He
Her.
said in
It's
science,
Jacqueline McLaughlin.
in the scientific method, we don't say this is 100% categorically true.
So you should never use the word
as
true.
I said before, which is sort of patently a void and sort of try and distract from, is that science makes models that describe the world. As somebody once famously said, all models are incorrect, some are useful. So that's how we determine what works and what doesn't.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, that was the last of our super chats, everybody. So, yeah, you can let me know in the live chat if I'm going to go through the effort here of getting this track exported over to the end of our show here for a little after thing. But in the meantime, Mark, Reid, Kyle Adams, big thank you to you fellas for coming out and having this discussion. Yeah, this has been a great time.
Aftershot mine. I've got it in the chat if you want to post it, and if you want, Ryan,
Sure.
I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, coming right up. All right, everybody, keep an eye out for me. I'm just going to post in the chat here. Mark's doing a little after show. And I was going to say, I might be back in about, 2 minutes here, and I'll see if I can fire up a little take of what I'm trying to figure out for that new intro for Modern Day Debate. I don't know. If you guys don't like it, then maybe we'll try something else. We'll keep checking away.
One last question for Mark here, okay? If you were to see someone hold up their hands and part the Red Sea or the ocean and just kind of walk through on dry ground, would you describe that as an empirical observation?
Yes.
Okay, so miracles are empirical. Thank you.
Well, I mean, as long as you can do that.
Okay, so if you were to observe something like that, then that would be considered an empirical observation.
But what I wouldn't think is an empirical observation is basically a story about somebody parting the Red Sea.
I agree.
That's not.
I agree. It's evidence, but it's kind of testimonial evidence.
Right. So to you, that may be empirical evidence. However, to somebody else,
I didn't say it was empirical.
Hang on, let me finish.
Okay.
To me seeing that, it would be empirical evidence to me, but it wouldn't be to somebody else. It would just be my testimony. That would just be, sort of just my testimonial, which, all kinds of people say all kinds of things. I don't see why we should attribute that level of certainty to testimony. It just isn't a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. That's why just a testimony, you can't live on borrowed light, as the scriptures describe. Yeah, you can't live on borrowed light. You have to develop your own testimony and observe your own experiences. And so for me, the parting of the Red Sea, that's borrowed light. I've got to be able to observe something like that for myself in order to have my own testimony. And so it's seeing miracles. And so when the Bible describes miracles like that, for me, it's not just, oh, well, this is something that only happens sometimes, only for certain people, special people. No, that's setting an expectation that it is possible for you to experience massive miracles of that magnitude. You personally and individually, and even as a community, people can observe those things in our day. And when people can observe things in that day, that testifies that those things that this kind of stuff is true.
Yeah, the problem is people don't observe it; they only hear other
that
people
you are
talk
aware
about it.
of.
And as the preponderance of things like cameras go up, like we all have video cameras on our phones, as those go up, the amount of miracles go down. So basically,
an
miracles
unsubstantiated claim.
invertibly stop happening with our ability to demonstrate them, and they can never be replicated. So they certainly are not scientific, as regardless
Unsubstantiated
of what
claims, but okay.
All right. Well, with that full wraparound there, once again, huge shout out to Kyle Adams, Mark Reid for coming out and have this discussion. And we'll be right back for a little after show here. So thank you everybody for coming out. And I set the link in the live chat there, Mark Reid. So if you want to take a moment there, no problem. Kyle, did you want to tell anybody where they can find you?
You can just look up my name, Kyle Adams. That's my YouTube channel. I'm also one of the Globebusters, so you can go check them out.
Awesome.
All
right.
Put in Adam's descendant, and it'll probably come up as well.
All right. Well, excellent. Let's close her off there. But thank you, everybody, and we'll be right back for a little after show music from the looks of things, just for the fun of it. All right. Thanks, everyone.